You are listening to the Mountainside Podcast, and our returning guest for this episode is Tom Clum Sr. Tom is one of my favorite people to sit down with. I always enjoy our interactions in or out of the podcast studio. He's an incredible archery coach. Tom and the Clum family have built an amazing business through Rocky Mountain specialty gear, cutthroat broadheads, solid archery mechanics, coaching, and traditional archery. Tom has an unbelievable amount of experience in the backcountry, but above all that, he's one of my favorite humans to be around. He's a great influence, and I always enjoy his company. This was a great episode, and I encourage you to listen to it in its entirety. All right, let's just dive into it if you're ready. Great. You helped me start this podcast, really. You were one of the first people that I was nervous to reach out to. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I think your original episode was episode 13, and that's been 2.5 years.
It's been a minute, yeah.
Yeah, and I got to publicly apologize to you because I was just a horrible host. I don't know how many times I interrupted you when you were in the middle of a story or
I don't remember anything like that, Bobby. You're too good a dude to be
But
like
I had
that.
a great time, and I've known you a lot longer than I've had the podcast, too. I mean, I've been coming to your shop for a lot of years, and family members coming to your shop, and the wealth of knowledge that you've ingrained in me, not only from the archery standpoint, but just how to be an outstanding role model, just a good person. So it's an honor to have you back in here. I know I've been hounding the crap out of you to get you back,
It's
but
an honor to be here. Thank you.
yeah, man. So I appreciate you making the trip. You know, I don't even know where to begin because I have so many things I want to talk to you about. I guess the first thing is, man, you've been in this community for a long time, born and raised in Colorado. I've known you for a lot of years, and your family's amazing, which speaks to you. And, you know, just instilling hunting and all these different things. What kind of keeps you going in all this and just having that positive attitude and just being a good role model? Because you have been to me too.
Well, thank you. Man, I don't know what to say that, but, you know, I got into the outdoor lifestyle, and I knew I wanted to be like a bow hunter since I was a kid. The old Fred Bear movies kind of motivated me. And got out of college, went into an archery shop. I want a bear super Kodiak, you know, got into bow hunting. I had a buddy that wanted to do it. He's my best friend growing up. And he was a backpacking family, and he said, okay, let's get the backpacks on and we'll go, you know. And it's that outdoor lifestyle had been started before with fishing mostly and some deer hunting with a half brother, but bow hunting captured my interest because it was a style of hunting that's so immersed in everything to do with the outdoors and the animals and the environment we're in. And hunting with a rifle wasn't like that. If you saw the animal, you got it. And killing the animal wasn't the big thing to me. It was, I don't know.
There's like a lot of shock factor in it.
Yeah,
something, you know?
It's great. You provide great pure protein to your family with it, and there's nothing wrong with it. And the animals have to be managed, but the bow hunting became for me like a lifestyle. It's the outdoors I knew was a healthy, righteous thing to do with my time, as opposed to other options.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you can spend some money on some stupid things, you know, but bow hunting.
And it's kept me healthy all these years. I'm 69 now. I'm in pretty good shape for this age, right?
I know. That's amazing.
And if it weren't for this lifestyle, I went to a 50th high school reunion. Holy mackerel. It was so sad because, you know, I'm looking at guys who've had careers of sedentary jobs, and it wreaked havoc on their bodies. And like there was like 3 of us that looked like they could move well, you know what I mean? Which was a surreal experience to think of 50 years because we visited the school on the day before. And so it brought back day-old memories, or 50-year-old memories that seem like a day old. I'm driving to this picnic. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. 50 years? How did this happen, right?
How fast did that go by? Too?
Yeah. But that was weird. But anyway, the outdoor lifestyle is something I knew that I wanted my family involved in with me, and I wanted to build good hunting partners on my son and daughter. She didn't choose it that much, but she likes everything around it. She helps us butcher game and wrap the meat, and she's definitely part of it. But I had a wife that loved the outdoors, and so we were backpacking, hunting together, and fishing and doing all that stuff. And then
did you start bow hunting before you had kids, or?
Oh yeah, I started bow hunting like I got out of college, got a job, saved a little money, went into the archery range and bought a bow. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And like I said, I had a best buddy that wanted to bow hunt also. And so we just did. And by the way, that first year, we kicked around in the backcountry for 20 days off of backpacks.
That's awesome.
Never saw an elk. Right? We didn't know a thing about how to do it. There wasn't the internet then. So
there's so many influences, great influences now that
now there's just information is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Google Earth, are you kidding me?
Right.
But anyway, so after that first year, we kind of started reading, whether it be magazine articles or the library, and finding out about the animal themselves, where they live, summer and winter ranges, how they moved in the terrain. And that second year, we scared the hell out of a lot of elk because we could find them now, right? Yeah. This is all part of the learning process. And then to become a good hunter, there's so many skill sets that have to converge. You kind of got to learn that woodsmanship of how to take care of yourself off of a backpack for numbers of days in a row and just be safe and in some kind of comfort, right? And you have to learn about navigating this backcountry where, back in the day we had topo maps, so we kind of had to learn to use those to see where in the heck we were and how we got in and out of these places. And then there's learning about the animals' habits. Like I said, we learned about the habits and where to find them, but we didn't have the next skill set, which was getting right in their bedroom with them, getting really close. As a bow hunter, you have to be really close, and the skill set of getting sneaky about it, or constantly on 24. Every minute you're hunting, you're keeping track of the wind because that's their main defense. They smell you from hundreds of yards away if the wind's blowing at them. And then there's this whole skill set of shooting a bow well, and what arrow and setups to use for lethality. We don't want to cause suffering to this animal that we're going to eventually use for food and that kind of stuff. So a lot of skill sets converge, right? And there's a lot of mistakes to be made. So I don't know, that whole immersion into that, I wouldn't trade it for anything. There was such a mystery to everything we did. It's like, how did we do this? And, honestly, now that I kind of know all about that and, I have this knowledge base that's far extended, and I don't have that mystery anymore. It's just, right. And I miss it a little bit,
That's kind of how I am with podcasting. The reason why I started my own podcast is because I was a podcast fan, and I thought, man, this is so great to have these conversations and these. I'm getting something out of it as a listener. Yeah. But now it's like,
you've got such a good personality. You're made to do this too, Bobby. Because you're if anybody out there doesn't know him, Bobby, personally, he's the most engaging person. He's got a smile on his face most all the time. When you greet him, you're going to see a smile. And so one of the most engaging, just flat out nice people I've ever met, which makes this a lot more fun too. Thanks, puts me at ease. This isn't the Flatter Bobby
podcast, though. That means a lot coming from you, man. And I think you've been a great influence, like I said, from the beginning. And is it River Summit Group? Is that who did the video on you and your family?
Yeah, it's a guy named Keith Brown Eyes. And that's, I guess, the name of his video company, so to speak. I think he spends most of his time being a fly fishing guide now, as opposed to being a photographer or video editor. But he was a guy that we met as a customer in the shop and was getting into traditional archery. He had a recurve. We taught him how to shoot, and getting to know him like we do everybody, and building a friendship there. And then one day he came to us, said, I'd like to do a traditional bow hunting film. I'm a photographer, video editor, blah, blah. I'd like to make a film on the lifestyle of traditional bow hunting, and I'd like to follow you guys around on your hunts. And, our first reaction was like, no, I'm sorry. This isn't right. We tend to be a little introverted, and tend to be people who don't like to be the center of attention. which lends to it. We didn't want to kind of pervert what we do by making a commercialized version of it.
Right.
And we didn't want to give up our really secret honey holes either. To have somebody see
It
where
makes
we
so much sense, because I feel the same way about hunting. Like, that's me in my time. Like, I'm not trying to be a professional hunter like some of these guys out. And I'm not knocking that, man. These guys get to go on some incredible trips and do some incredible things. And it's kind of stuff that I just don't really have the desire to do. Like, I'm a Colorado elk hunter, and that's what I grew up doing. And that passion has never gone away. I don't know why. Like, I still, every time I hear an elk bugle in the backcountry, it's like the hair stands up on the back of my neck, and I get excited. And like, there's no feeling like that, right? For me.
No.
So I don't, where I was kind of getting with, like, since I started podcasting, it's ruined me listening to podcasts and me enjoying them as a fan, because I listen a lot more intently. Like, oh, what would I say here? Like, I'm critiquing.
Yeah, I get it.
Even though I don't want to, you know. And a good conversation is still just a good conversation. Like, I still listen to other people's podcasts. Like Aaron Snyder's is great. You know, there's a lot of great ones out there. Rogan's incredible. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want that to happen to me with hunting. Like, I don't want to get jaded with it. So it's just, and for me, I've never been one for like the grip and grin photos or anything like that. If I do take them, it's only shared with like my very closest friends or family members or something like that. You know,
I like to have
those are kind of
photos
like my moments. You know,
yeah, I like to have those photos, and I like to share them with my close people.
Yeah.
And we've kind of had to do more of showing what we do. I mean, we have a business related to hunting and archery hunting.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with that too. Like, I think it's about how you portray it. You know?
There's you want to walk a fine line. I don't want to ever get into self-promotion, but you have a business that you want people to know about. Yeah, so there's that line to walk.
Your amount of knowledge too, man. Like,
that's what's comfortable
and the way
for us.
How much you guys share. Like, you are an open book, and we'll take anybody in that wants to learn.
That's what's comfortable for us, and the whole team we have built down there at Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear, is we're all people immersed in the lifestyle. We're all people that have educated ourselves in coaching and proper form and all the things to do with archery, and we're all the type of people that love to share what we love. I mean, if I get somebody into the sport and they enjoy it, I'm doing them a favor, like I was given that favor. You know, it's kind of sharing the love in a way, but it's enjoyable. And when you see these young guys come in, like I was that guy that walked in the shop, like, I don't even know what to ask. And guys tell me, like, I'd like to bow. I don't even know what to ask. Like, dude, don't worry. I got the answers before you ask them, you know, let's start talking, you know. And then you spend some time with these folks, just teaching them how to shoot and talking about hunting and tactics. And then you build these friendships, which is the huge blessing of what I do, is I've got friendships now all over the country from people I've taught to shoot a bow or engaged in my business with in some way, because, you know, for me, relationships are about the best thing in life, and great people enhance your life for sure. So that's 100%. Been the huge benefit in what I do. So
that's why you and I are friends, honestly,
absolutely.
Man, because like the first time that I really sat down with you, I was like, Tom is just a good human, and just the amount of knowledge that you dumped on me or just openly shared.
Yeah, that's amazing. Enjoyable. Like none of us,
not very many
born
people
in this
are
world
like that.
with much knowledge. Right?
Yeah.
And there are some places where you feel like people are looking down on your nose or judging you, and like, man, they had to learn too. You know?
Yeah.
But it's fun to share this knowledge. There's
a lot of egos in hunting.
There is.
I found,
like everything.
You know, there's
like everything.
A lot of big egos sometimes, and that tends to get in the way of.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's better than anybody else in anything.
And it can cast a bad.
Are you a good person or are you a
Yeah.
shitty person?
Like
you know, like what is it?
If your skill level, and I like teach that when I'm shooting, like guys get so upset because they're not getting it or they shoot poorly one day or whatever. And I was like, if I'm a coach and I'm teaching a competitive archer or teaching anybody, actually, it's like give yourself a break. This is a skill set. We all suck when we start, and automatic functions happen to longtime archers, and they get this target panic stuff. And it's like, there are reasons for this that are just automatic to the brain. We get these automatic functions that take over our shot, and so we're not running them correctly, and then of course they turn out to be accurate. And then there's anxiety involved in that. But if I can back a person up, it's like, it's down to this message, not to sound too corny, but your personal value has not a damn thing to do whether you can shoot a bow well or not
Not
or
at
you're
all.
a good hunter or any dang thing in life like that, right?
It's perseverance and
So
adversity.
When my sons were competitors and they were Division I collar wrestlers, and Tommy's got a couple All-American, a couple time Big Ten. We had big successes those boys had through their wrestling careers, but their identity or who they were, dad's love, or any other dang thing had nothing to do with winning a stupid wrestling match or not. And man, whether it's shooting a bow and arrow well or bowling well or whatever, pick your sport, if you're doing it for the fun of the sport, and you can be competitive and want to win, and it's a game. It's not life or death. And be a good winner and a good loser, and not wrap your identity up in how good you are or not good you are at this game. It sure makes the game more fun. And it sure
more fun.
It just breeds success. Take the pressure off yourself. Okay, treat like an archery shot. I teach you guys, treat this shot like a math problem. There's a sequence, a mental and physical sequence we go through to make a shot, and treat it like a math formula. So you run the formula. There's a sequence of thoughts and actions you do to make your shot, and maybe it didn't go like you wanted to. So, what part of the equation there did we get wrong? So you analyze your shot and say, okay, I think I didn't come into this transfer to hold position. I didn't line up my body correctly. I didn't get skeletal alignment. Let's run that formula again, start to finish.
Yeah, and you've done it with me firsthand.
Yeah.
I mean, you've changed me as an archer.
Yeah, we get a good result. That's the formula. That's the one we got to run time after time after time. Or something else breaks down, you just start. It's just figuring it out. It's not, dang it, just throwing the bow down or anything.
And man, when you figure it out, there's it's such a good feeling.
It's hard for people out there that might be listening that don't do archery, and they look at maybe people in an archery range shooting at a target on a wall, and why is that so fun?
Yeah.
But it's really hard to describe, but I honestly, God, think that it's a skill set to be developed. As you develop this skill set and you start hitting the middle of the target, there's a level of satisfaction there for obtaining the skill set. I swear it gives you those feel-good chemicals. You know what I mean?
It does, just shooting a bow and going through the shot sequence and since what you've taught me now, I have a little mantra that is my shot sequence.
Yeah.
And it's a form of I'm not a guy to meditate. I can't sit still. And I've said this multiple times on the podcast.
Yeah.
But archery is mine. So if I can shoot 50 arrows a day, I'm pretty happy, And if I can do that at the first part of the day, I'm extremely happy. I mean, don't tell anybody, but there's a reason why there's a target, even if it's at 6 feet.
Yeah, just
it's
practice,
still it's just still you don't think about anything else. Did I pay my mortgage? What am I going to have for dinner tonight? None of those thoughts are going through your head or
let me tell you how much I get that. So I'm in an archery shop every day of my life, and I'm serving customers and teaching archery. And a stressful day to me is like a day where there's not enough help for the customers available. And so I feel like we didn't give as good a service as we could have. That's stressful to me. Or I'm just pulled in 15 directions all day. And I'll go home, and I've been in around archery all day, and I'll grab my bow, I'll walk out and back, and the whole world just calms. It's just me and the bow back there shooting some arrows, and everything just melts down. And I say, okay, I'm ready for the evening now.
And there's something about that shot sequence that you taught me, shooting through back tension and kind of that, is it the closed loop mindset?
Closed loop, that'd be Joel Turner's terms for consciousness. So staying in consciousness, staying executive function, control, being like a conscious movement, for instance, is one that's slow enough that you can evaluate, change, stop while you're doing it. A movement that starts and stops, there's no changing it, just starts and ends, is a subconscious movement. So consciousness can only be applied to one thing at a time. Conscious control, conscious control of a movement, can only go to that movement.
So you're using both in a shot sequence.
In a shot sequence, how you practice a sequence of break an archery shot into pieces. So we have a basic stance, we nock an arrow, and for a recurve would be setting your hook, your fingers on the string in a particular way, and shaping your wrist and everything in a particular way. For you, you're going to snap your release onto the D loop. And so it's hook, and then we set our grip. And there's a specific way you set the grip. You get those knuckles out there to 45. If for a right-handed person, you line that left side of the handle right on the lifeline, so that pressure's on the thumb pad side of your hand. And then you extend your arms down there at 45, and then there's a little elbow orientation we worry about. And then we set our shoulders down. And we lift the bow to about nose height, and then, there's a specific way we draw the bow to keep your shoulders healthy. We want to use our back muscles, so there's some angles and movements from different angles that we teach you. And we come into that draw and into an anchor point, a specific place we place our hand every single time on our face. And for recurve archers, there's another extra movement to obtain alignment. We rotate that elbow behind the string, which aligns our skeletal structure up from front to back. And when our skeletal structure is aligned up, it reduces muscular tension. It's a much more comfortable physical and mental place to be. So that's our holding position. And then we put an aim on the target, and we let the aim settle. We just look at the target. And just like when we're driving a car and just looking at the middle of the lane, and we let the steering go to the subconscious, we do that with the aim. Just like steering, those little micro adjustments in the steering wheel, you say, how in the heck's that happening? The same thing happens while aiming a bow. If you just look at the spot you want to hit, the subconscious will make all those little adjustments and keep your bow right there. That allows the conscious mind to come back to the backside, your string hand, and produce a movement that will make the bow go off as a surprise. And when the bow goes off as a surprise, the arrow is going to be shot right exactly to where it's aimed. If we, as in contrast, and for all you archery geeks, if we punch the trigger, if we say now, our brain's going to know exactly when the bow is going off, and we're going to have because it's shock to our body is going to contract some muscles, and it's going to move our bow hand just a very little bit, and that's going to happen at the point at which you're shooting, because it's the now moment. I'm shooting now. Well, that little movement occurs, and I have to show this to archers all the time. An 1/8 inch of movement at the bow hand is going to cause about a 10-inch miss at 20 yards. But that little movement, number one, is so small to be imperceptible, and it's timed right with the bow going off, so you never even know what's happening. You say, it's the WTF moment, like, why in the heck did I miss by 10 inches? That aim was perfect. It's this little movement that braces yourself for the shock. That's why we have to make a firearm or a bow go off as a surprise. So now, at the end of that shot, it's consciousness. We have to consciously control a very slow movement, and that movement makes your release break, or makes the sear in it break, or we move our hook through the string on a recurve that creates a subconscious release, and the arrow goes right where it's aimed. So that would describe a physical and mental sequence of an archery shot if you're uninitiated.
Yeah, and I love it, and that's why I'm getting back to it's a form of meditation, because you have to calm yourself down. You have to calm your breathing down. You have to
you have to set your mind to the task.
Yeah.
And so,
and if you don't, you will fail.
Yeah, and you were talking about, so that's the way we had to learn it. We had to learn it in those pieces. So it's then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. But your brain, every time you repeat that sequence consciously, we learn in the conscious realm, we're making each of those pieces perfect. And your brain imprints every movement you ever make. And movements that we repeat, it imprints that whole segment of movements sometimes. So it starts doing this. And then pretty soon, instead of 1, 2, 3, you notice that these positions to movements to positions, it's like 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 and 5, and all this stuff starts acting seamlessly. When that seamless set of movements comes up into holding position, and it's running automatically right to a spot you want, you don't have to put that conscious control to that anymore. Sure. You can just let it flow.
It's like putting one foot in front of the other and walking.
You let it flow. Yeah. It's imprinted in your brain as a whole complex set of movements, but it's just one motor program now that includes 10 factors that you had to learn individually. And so that's how we learn any complex skill. We break it into pieces, consciously learn each piece in order, and then as that gets imprinted, the brain, this amazing supercomputer on your shoulders, integrates that. I see what you're doing. It anticipates our needs. 2 follows 1. And now it's not 1, 2. It's 1 and 2. It just all flows together. And then 2 and 3 and 4. And this now, archery shot, if you ever watch, especially a recurve shooter, is that a beautiful thing to see?
It's incredible.
That bow sweeps up. They come into their anchor. That elbow sweeps back behind the arrow. They settle on the target. the follow through happens. That arrow launches an arrow. You see that trajectory path band to the target. It's a beautiful thing.
I really admire watching you guys shoot. I shoot a compound for. That's just what I prefer to shoot right now because of the time that I can put in and stuff. But I think it is a goal eventually, to maybe get into a little bit more on the trad side. I don't know that I'll ever make the jump, but if I do.
I did it just to shoot a recurve sometimes because the bows were beautiful.
Yeah.
Right?
They are.
And I shot things.
And they're lighter.
Yeah. And dang, this is fun. And I kept shooting it. Man, this is really fun. And then I actually started shooting it. Well, man, I could hunt with this. It was never intended to be my weapon of choice because I started with a compound.
Well, I gave my son the choice.
Mm-hmm.
When he showed some interest in archery, I was lit right up. I was like, okay,
nice. Yeah, my little buddy's coming with me.
Something I didn't force on him, It's just like if dad's out there shooting every night, eventually they're going to want to, right? And his first bow was like one of the little bare fiberglass, like this kit or whatever. And I had you guys set it up with some arrows and stuff. But then eventually he outgrew that and was just starting to shoot pretty decent. And I ended up bringing him down, or I gave him the choice. I was like, do you want a compound like for your next bow, or do you want to stick to the traditional side? And he had spent enough time at Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear and seeing all you guys. He was like, Dad, I think I want to shoot traditionally still. And I was like,
yeah.
All right, so you're gonna one up me on, but it was awesome. And then we got some lessons from you. We got some lessons from Jerry, and watching him go through. You guys put his shot process together, and his accuracy increasing, and just it's gratifying watching somebody else go through that and make that motion. But even one of your own children is even more
really
amazing,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
And now we're to the point where he can go and shoot from the traditional stakes at a 3D course. And how fun is that?
Mackerel. That's awesome. Yeah.
We brought him down to your guys' golden shoot a couple times, and
nice.
he just had a blast, That's such a cool thing. And, shout out to American Bowman. I spent I was actually up there this morning.
No way. Nice.
Yeah. I did 40 targets this morning, and it just makes my day, just being up there for 2.5 hours.
For those who don't know, American
Bowman
Bowman is a club in the mountains near Bailey, and it is in the forest, man. So you're shooting downhill, uphill, side hill in this beautiful setting, shooting across the creek.
It's so awesome.
And it's a walk through the woods with
That's
your
what
bow.
you were talking about, and you were telling me about
There's
that
about
shot,
a 50-yard or 50-foot cliff shot in there.
Yes.
I mean,
shooting off a cliff at something, how cool is that?
Not to knock it, but get out of here with your total archery challenge, man, and all those people. Like I go up there and I'm by myself.
We got stuff real close that's super cool, don't we?
And I'm using it now for me to get in shape for hunting season.
Yeah.
I throw a pack on, I run between some of the targets, not all of them, because some of them you're traversing almost, and you're getting hiking in. I think that there's like 1,000 feet of elevation climb if you do both sides. So you're not.
Yeah, it's not a small workout.
It's a lot of up and down, and then it's made my shooting so much better.
Well, and shooting under the conditions where you'll hunt.
Oh yeah, 100%. And have you been up there this year?
Not this year yet.
Scott has got the course set up. It's nasty, man. There's some knee shots and there's a lot of branches in the way, because you gotta anticipate arrow flight, right? And the trad shots are set up pretty sweet too. You're always peeking around a tree or something, some sort of cover or something. So
it's just fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun, man. I love going up there. I'd love to go up there with you sometime if you ever have time. Yeah, it's a great spot. But yeah, I think, putting in the time and learning that shot sequence has made me so much better. And it's been from your coaching.
Yeah, thank you.
But ultimately, how did you put all this stuff together to kind of come up with your coaching methods? And I know that there's a lot of coaches out there, and I know that you're certified through USA Archery, right? As a level 4 instructor.
So that whole thing honestly kind of started as an accident 20 years ago. Golden, our local archery club, rents that ground from the city of Golden, the Golden Archery Club. So Golden Archery Club says, okay, we'll rent you this ground. We'll keep the lease going if you allow our Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, youth groups, whatever, to use the range and then supervise them. But to supervise them, you need certified instructors. We want at least level 2 certified instructors. Well, I was a guy that been shooting a bow all my life to that time, and was looking for archery instruction and couldn't find by every DVD or book I could. Like, how do I do this better? And I couldn't find anything. But anyway, the local club sends out an email. We want 5 volunteers to be certified instructors, and we'll pay for it. And you got to volunteer to do these groups when they come in. Like, raise my hand right away. What's a certified instructor with USA Archery, you know? So I got into this thing. It was a level 1 and 2 course, and it was a weekend course, 20 hours, 10 hours for 2 days, and did the background. And that's another reason they wanted certified instructors. If you're a USA certified instructor, you have a background check, you have insurance, and there's a certain level of proficiency in being able to shoot and teach proper archery involved, right? And proper archery is not only producing accuracies, but protecting the health of your shoulders in particular. Archery is a repetitive motion injury sport, so learning the biomechanics behind what you do too, and putting people in positions and movements that won't hurt themselves,
which is
super
crazy.
important.
I mean, you've fixed a couple things on me. I was having shoulder pain and wrist pain before I came and saw you, and since I changed my sock,
change this, change that.
It was like movement micro adjustments made a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
if I would have kept shooting that way, I don't think I would.
Might not be shooting
like
now.
When I'm your age. I don't know that I would be able to shoot.
Yeah, because
and how many bow guys have, bow hunters have shoulder
can't
problems.
shoot anymore. Like a lot of the old guys and a lot of the old
crazy,
styles.
yeah.
But discomfort leads to pain, pain leads to injury, and there's a lot of tough people out there that'll shoot through that discomfort and say if they've got an impingement. I could get fancy with the words and everything, so I won't go there. But they can get an impingement that causes inflammation. Inflammation causes a bone spur will lacerate a tendon. That's kind of a progression of an archery movement. Or movements from baseball or any other sports are the same kind of thing, repetitive motions, right? So that's a big part of what we learn in in these certifications. So I've gone up through the certification levels, and because I have an archery shot, I got to start teaching proper archery 20 years ago. And then it ended about 5 years ago it culminated at the Olympic Training Center for a level 4 certification. That is 50 hours of classroom over a week's time, and like 45 of that's right in front of the Olympic coach. And it's all diced into teaching modules on every little nuance in an archery shot, the physicality of it, the mental management. And it ends in some really severe testing, like 3.5 hours of narrative tests. They give you pictures of archers, and you have to pick out what's biomechanically incorrect in what they're doing from a picture, tell them what's biomechanically correct, and then narrate how you'd coach that.
Wow.
And so if you get through this 3.5 hour written exam with all these pictures and narrations, with 90% or above, you get to go have a personal interview test with the Olympic coach. And there's probably 150 nuanced things about a shot sequence that you have to tell him, and they check them off. And while you're narrating this stuff, you show them how you can coach it. So, man, that was a heck of an experience, man. And the pass rate's usually really low, but I did get through it, and there's a long story I won't go into, but it was very stressful.
I can only imagine. That's awesome that they vet that much, though. I mean, because then the certification really means something. Because there's a ton of certifications out there that you can get that are just like, it might as well be a piece of paper that you hand wrote yourself.
Right.
You know? It's
those
like,
early certifications are so basic, but by the time you've been through the Olympic Training Center, and I'll tell you that information was so in depth that it probably took me a year to really digest and internalize this and be able to teach it well. And then I've seen throughout the last 20 years of coaching archery, about every 6 months, I look back at 6 months like, I wish I knew that to teach that guy. And it's continued to be that way. I'm in this huge quest to know what I don't know and just be aware I don't know anything. And then there's been subject matters I don't know, and I could go after that. But man, it's driving me crazy what I don't know. Or how do I better communicate it? So I've had 20 years of who knows how many thousands of people I get to teach this to or communicate this to, of practice. And then I've had great relationships with like Joel Turner of Shot IQ. I've coached with him in seminars and clinics all over the country now. And so here I'm going to say I've been in the catbird seat. So I got all this stuff from the Olympic Training Center. I I have this friendship relationship co-coaching with a guy like Joel Turner, subject matter expert in target panic and what's going on with the brain there.
Yeah.
And I get to integrate all that information.
He's a former police sniper or something, right? Or
He's a SWAT sniper.
SWAT sniper,
right?
yeah.
He spent some time as firearms instructor at Washington State Police Academy. I mean, he's highly immersed. So Joel brought to the archery world and verbalized things that we never talked about. There was things like this subject of link bracing. Joel brought to light and verbalized when he's teaching management tools or how to run your triggers. This is what we're teaching for, because we have this phenomenon called link bracing. Our body will react to anything that gives us pressure, shock, or impact with a muscle contraction, with a brace, with a flinch, and that's a hardwired subconscious activity. So we have to beat that. That's why we press the trigger real slow until a gun goes off as a surprise. Otherwise, we'll brace. If we just press the trigger, our brain's going to know when the gun's going to go boom, and we're going to contract muscles and pull the barrel off.
Not to mention if you have some adrenaline running through your body too, like it's a different thing.
That's why it's exaggerated, because that reaction's there, and so calm people have slow reactions. But everybody's reactive flinch or brace or movement goes up as anxiety goes up. And so when we're a hunter or a target archer in a tournament, those reactions can be huge. Right?
Oh, it's massive.
It's massive. So
I've made
we have
some serious mistakes.
Of
just
course,
because of that.
Everybody has. Everybody that's an archer has. So we really have to know how to manage that. So Joel's especially, and his son is probably the best archer on the planet, arguably. At 15,
it's crazy.
He won Vegas in the Open Pro division. At 15 years old, right?
Didn't he set some world record there too? Like he shot.
He's done some, he's
three
perfect
got some, scores and
like in Lancaster
Open
or something. Those Vegas targets are 10, 9, 8 to 1, right?
Right.
The 10 is a very small circle in the middle, and inside that's the X ring. So at Lancaster, the X ring's worth 11. So there's a 60 arrow qualifying round. He hit the X ring 60 times in a row.
That's
in the Open Pro. He was the only third one to do it. Now he's the third and fourth one to do it. He did it the last 2 years in a row.
And he's 16 years old.
He's 16 now, right?
Wow.
And so, Joel's had him with him since we were little kids. He's doing shooting demos as a flipping 8-year-old and out shooting everybody that's watching, right?
It's incredible.
He was built to do this. Plus, Joel's teaching is phenomenal. So you get an archer that grew up and loved it with his dad, probably going to be pretty good. Now, who knew he'd be the best guy around?
Yeah. And coming back full circle to that video we were talking about, because we never really got to the end of it.
Okay.
Like, I thought that was a great, because I know you and your family. Like, some of your family works in the archery shop. I've met your wife before, on a Sunday when we're doing one of those adaptive shoots or something like that. And just your whole entire family is immersed in it and just generous, kind people. And I thought that this video really portrayed that well. So I'm glad that you said yes to this guy.
We did.
To come out and follow you guys around.
Right.
And
we shortcutted that story, but eventually kind of talked to him about it and said, you can follow. So
what's the name of that film?
The Intimate Weapon on YouTube. So in YouTube, if you search The Intimate Weapon.
Oh, yeah. Jeremy's got it.
Yeah, there it is.
Pulled up already.
That's
a great shot of Danny.
That's actually Tommy. That's my oldest son.
God, they look so much alike.
They do. They do.
Especially in that photo.
Yeah. So this just now he follows around for 2 years hunting. He came to the house and filmed some stuff. He came to the shop and filmed some stuff. And we didn't know what this was going to be when it finished. And we were blown away. I couldn't, like I was talking to you before, I couldn't tell if it was a romance, it's a lifestyle story.
Well, it starts with your wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And, I think it's just, it fits you guys. It was really well done because I've said no to a lot of media stuff in my career. Working for rock bands, they always want to do like the backstage behind the scenes, like film and interview the crew guys or the stage managers or whatever. And every time I've seen those huge companies come in when they're shooting like a DVD or a TV expose or something like that, they chop it up and they make you sound like
right. It
you're
can be
not
out of
yourself.
context.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't portray the nature.
It makes the guys look like a bunch of jackasses, really. I mean, so I've always said no to that. And I guess that's why I have a passion for podcasting, because I don't script anything. Like,
Yeah, I asked
You know,
you
we
what we're
just come
talking
in
about.
here
You
and
said,
here-
I don't know. We're just going to talk. I said, all right. Get me on
Here we go.
Get me
Yeah.
on a shot sequence. I can, it's easy for me.
Oh, I know,
Get me
yeah.
on me. It's going to be harder.
Well, and I'm probably lying to you a little bit. I mean, I've been thinking about it all day. I mean, one reason why I went to American Bowman today to shoot 40 shots was to like really go there by myself. I didn't invite anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, how do I want this conversation to go with Tom? Like, because I still get nervous with you in here, man. Like, you're a living legend to me, Tom.
No,
Like,
that makes me uncomfortable.
and I mean, I've been around a ton of, famous people, but in my eyes, those people aren't. I don't want this to come off the wrong way. Like I hold people that are good influences or people that I aspire to be as my influencers, right? Like,
Me too.
And
Yeah.
try to
Me too.
block out the other stuff,
Yeah.
And you're definitely one of those. Like,
So I'm a pretty average guy. I mean, I'm an average Joe for sure. And I happen to have
think
a,
so.
I have a skill set. I do in teaching archery, and I've become well known in that niche. And so when people ascribe big terms to me, it makes me very uncomfortable because
I'm sorry,
From
I'm putting you
there-
on the spot.
all I can do is let you down. I never want to let anybody down.
Yeah, but it's more your demeanor,
So,
the way that you
anyways.
carry yourself. You don't get. I've never seen you get agitated or stressed.
Not
And if
much.
you do,
Not much.
you don't show it.
No,
you know,
I don't want to ever show that.
Yeah.
And we're all human beings, and I have those moments, but I don't want to take it out on anybody else. You know.
But what I was getting at the beginning of the podcast when I was fumbling over my words is your family. Like Danny's like that a lot, and I
He's
don't know
amazing.
Tommy all
Tommy's
that well.
amazing. Yeah.
But just your entire family that's around there, is just everybody that I run into that's a Clum is just the nicest people. Like you want to spend hours with them, and you can. And it's
and I'll say
inviting
this.
to be around.
People complimented me or my wife on raising great kids, but in the end, compliment them. They've made choices in their life that are really great. You know what I mean? And so that's on them. You know, what kind of people they're turning out to be is on them. And of course, I'm proud of it as a parent, but it's on them.
Yeah, you kind of are giving them just the
you set that
bumpers,
path.
right?
You
Yeah,
set those bumpers right.
and you
and
just
you're
hope that
hoping.
they make good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm being a father of 3, I'm starting to figure that out. And you've actually given me, some of the conversations that we've had in the archery shop, and one of the reasons why I look up to you is like, I remember having a conversation with you off the cuff, just kind of, I asked you, and I don't know if you care that I share this publicly, but I was like, I'm worried. How do you keep your kids interested in hunting? And like, because I think there's so many like life values and there's so many distractions today, right? Like if you play football, which my son is doing now, and he's getting training at the highest level you could possibly get
Nice.
through the podcast, which is amazing. So he really has this passion for football. I was kind of like, how do you keep? You face a lot of adversity in the backcountry, right? You get cold, you get wet, you get
Exerted,
tired,
you're sweating, you're shivering.
you might go elk hunting for 20 days and not see an elk,
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff that happens. And I was kind of asking you, like, how did you keep your boys interested and your family interested in it? And you were just like, treat them like a bird dog.
Yeah, I joke like train them like a bird dog.
Yeah.
I make sure they had fun.
Yeah.
If we went fishing and they want to throw rocks in the lake, I let them throw rocks in the lake because I wanted them to have fun with Dad in the backcountry. Yeah. And if we're shooting our bows, I'm setting up tin cans and balloons because I want them to have fun. And I always left a little before they wanted to. I keep that desire alive. It was pretty dang intentional.
That's the one that I use all the time.
Yeah.
I've used it on football. It applies in so many spots in life. Like if you have the hunger to go do more, if you get bored with something,
you move on.
forget it.
And I don't want them to get bored being with Dad because I want being with Dad to be a really good time. And, now they're my hunting partners still, and I'm an old man, and they're mature adults now.
And now your grandkids are
Almost
out there.
40.
I mean,
And now I
when
get
you
to
guys
do
are
this
Phil
again.
dressing that moose in that video, that
Yes.
was one of the coolest parts is like,
Yeah.
there's so much value in children seeing that sort of stuff where a lot of parents would shelter their kids from it, like
My
oh,
kids and
look at
grandkids
that.
know
Like,
exactly where their food comes from, right from the ground up. And that's reality. That's life. I mean, it's not been that long in human civilization where people didn't know where their food came from. Maybe last 50 years for sure, but maybe not 100 years ago. Everybody knew that wrapped steak and with cellophane over it was an animal standing on the ground somewhere, right?
Yeah. But more importantly nowadays too is like, what has that animal been through to make it to the supermarket?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how well does the butcher care about what's going in your body?
Yeah.
Than you would yourself, you know, like that's kind of
their standards.
You don't know if it's been drugged through its own feces or whatever, you know. It's like,
but in our game animals, we take huge care to get it cooled right away, to keep it clean. You know, in our processing, it's all about cleanliness and making sure that food that we're bringing home is fantastic, and it is, and it's the healthiest food we can have.
I subscribe to that so much because it's changed me physically in the last year, just primarily switching almost 95% of my diet to just wild game. Yeah. Which means I have to be a better hunter.
Yeah. And you're looking great.
But it's so important for me.
My kids.
And I got the science to back it up too.
Yes.
Like, that's the crazy part.
Yeah. No, my kids didn't buy meat very often growing up through my kids, and now my grandkids. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And they're like, what are we eating today?
Yeah.
And I'd just been to Texas. This is a pig.
Yeah.
What are you eating today? Well, this is a pheasant. What are we eating today? This is a deer.
Yeah.
This is an elk.
That's so awesome. I mean, my kids are the same way. Like, their favorite thing to eat is backstrap, you know.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah,
baby.
you know, they know what that is. They know the difference between steak now and you know, bison is at the top of the list right now. It's going out of the freezer very fast, but the kids are like, "Hey, Dad, can you make steaks again tonight?" You know,
nice.
like steak for every meal. But yeah, I think it's super important. There's a lot of values in that as a kid, and I think your approach has really helped me. So like those little moments like that, where you've shared something, you know, that was totally personal, and we've known each other for a few years, but like. We don't hang out all the time or anything, you know.
I'm pretty easy to have a deep conversation with, because I can go from like adolescent humor to serious in about a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of guy. And then get fun again.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I love having you in here too. Man, where were we at in conversation before that? We were talking, I totally just threw us off.
You know, I was talking about that catbird seat, because I had all this stuff on USA Archery at the Lemming Training Center. I have a guy like Joel Turner. I have a movement expert named Matt Bernier I counsel with. And how do we teach movement? How it creates movement? What's the muscular involved in this movement? And so
he's like a sports trainer, right?
Yeah, he's like a licensed massage therapist, and he has a different style where he's really going to the connection spots. You know, he doesn't really flatten muscle out. He'll kind of work on connections that allow these muscles to maintain function or gain function. And so it's too complicated for me to describe properly. But anyway, this guy he's a physiology expert. I've talked to a lot of orthopedics, because I'll pick their brain about physiology and biomechanics. But I haven't talked to an orthopedic doctor that was as good at explaining to me things like Matt, as far as the whole skeletal, muscular, and neural systems go. And so he's given me insights on, like, he'll give me a drill to create movement here, but I'll use those concepts to create movement there. So in an archery lesson, I'm having people move in ways.
Well, your knowledge in that, like telling me what tendon was in my shoulder and like what I was actually pinching, I was like, where's Tom's PhD on the wall? Because I'm not seeing it.
And I'm learning things like I can see pictures, but I haven't been in a body before. And so a lot of it's kind of parroting what I'm learning. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but like Matt, he's worked on like 13 cadavers, and he knows what everything. So if I have a problem or people have pain, or I want to know what this person is doing to create pain, and it's outside of my body knowledge, I can ask Matt. And of course, he's going to say, well, I don't know. I can't look at the guy. We can't look inside his body. But this can create this, and this can create that. And let's look here or look there, you know. And so a lot of times we'll come to solutions that'll relieve pain, things that are outside of my body knowledge. But anyway, he's taught me things that have taught me how to communicate movement to a person, how we cue it, how we think about it, how we get a brain neural muscle connection to a specific movement. Now, I may have you do a movement that doesn't look like an archery shot, but later when we put it in an archery shot, you've already got brain access to that muscle group to make that movement. So things like that make me a more effective coach. I dive into the whole psychotherapy world and, like brain function and brain chemicals and, this whole, we want to stay in prefrontal cortex, executive function, and defense responses. All that stuff shows up in an archery shot, believe it or not.
I know.
So there's a lot of stuff from that world. That's kind of my latest dive into it. I don't want to get too much into that stuff, and that's more learning about not super practical applications, but I'm always searching for a better way to do this and communicate it. But
it's crazy how it's evolved too. Like even from when I started shooting a bow as a kid.
Oh yeah, knowledge is getting better all the time.
One thing that we kind of touched on our previous podcast, and I had to go back and listen to it, and that's where I was just cringing every time I talked. But there's some great information in there. But we started talking about history and Native American culture and bow, curing and like kind of the construction of archery. And you brought up a point, and I interrupted you and didn't let you elaborate on it a little bit, but like you've studied some shot sequences from history, right? Like there's some documented stuff on how the Mongolians put together their shot sequence and what their training process was, or like stuff like that. Have you dove into that pretty heavily?
As much as I can with the information available. When you're talking about ancient cultures, there's not written evidence of a lot of stuff, right? So you look at the Mongols or the Huns, and they were horseback riders, and they would shoot. They had these short bows, and the technology they figured out was amazing. They have these big sweeping curves to these ends of the bows that are static, like a 6-inch static piece of wood, and they would back the bows. Back a bow. I got to explain that. And the front side of the bow, they would line it with like these little sheets of horn, which would stiffen the bow and make them more powerful.
Is that why some traditional bow builders put like some antler or like ram's horn or something, or is that more decorative?
Mostly on the tip overlays to secure and make those stronger, but they will back the bow, which is the front side of the bow. It's all right with sinew. That strengthens the bow. It doesn't let the fibers list from the wood, and it will make it stiffer and more powerful.
Is this that's a Mongolian
bow right there. Yeah.
So cool. You guys have a couple of those in the shop.
Yeah, we usually do. Yeah. And so if you see that guy, he's shooting with his thumb, the left side there in the middle.
Yeah.
And he's shooting the arrow off the right side. So he's a right-handed archer, but the arrow's on the right side, and he's shooting with his thumb. So that's what aligns to his eye better.
And that's how Joel shoots, isn't it?
That is how Joel shoots, yeah. So for our style, it's more like English longbow style. It's 3 fingers, a right-handed archer, the arrow will be on the left side because that's going to align with the right eye. But when you're on the thumb, the arrow's way further out there and it aligns on the right side of the bow better. But anyways, you look at those cultures, or you look at the Comanche, once our natives got horses, very short bows. They were devastating warriors that overwhelm people.
Crushing people, anything that was in their path, basically.
Yeah,
bison, they were savages.
Yeah, they were tough people. And so whether it's other natives or the white people that came into their territories, they were pretty tough.
I have a friend of mine I want to introduce you to at some point that I don't know how much Comanche he is, but he's one of the most prominent coaches in the UFC right now, and it makes sense. Like just his mindset, and he's a heck of a bow hunter too. He's killed some awesome stuff. So
nice.
Yeah, but
I have a native friend, and he had a self bow, and it was like about this long. I don't know if it's not very long; it's short, and he would shoot it more at the hip. It was very short range weapon, but he took an elk with that.
Really?
And it was very heavy. It's 65 pounds at like 24 inches, and he'd pull that to 24 inches. A big old guy. He'd shoot it right here. So this is 10 yards and in. This is ultimate hunting skills. But you look at the Japanese with that short bottom limb and the long top limb, and they raise their hands way above their head, and they sweep down into the draw, and it anchors way behind their ear, and the arrow's on the side of the bow. So they have this.
It's crazy. It looks like they're going to
flick the bow. Yeah, they flick the bow out of the way, and it's a archery form style developed in that culture right? The English longbow cultures, there were war bows. They drew them under their chin. They're shooting long range. They have it under the chin anchor. It's a high launch angle because they're clout shooting. They're shooting hundreds of arrows at the enemy at the same time, and very heavy bows, very heavy arrows. Those bodkin points could penetrate armor.
It's insane.
It's interesting to me. I'd love to immerse myself more into how those styles of shooting progressed. Like archery is kind of like a guild in each culture. A guild is a body of knowledge, and so each generation doesn't have to learn that body of knowledge over. They get to bring that body of knowledge forward, and then there will be some thinkers in the next generation, or science improves or whatever, and they add to that body of knowledge, and the next generation gets that body of knowledge to start with. And so you can see that these forms of shooting developed in cultures over time, just like ours is now. Just like NTS, our national training system that I teach from the Olympic Training Center, set forth by our Olympic coach. It's meant to be a living body of knowledge. In other words, if they find science that changes how they do things, they change NTS. The way you hook the string has been changed 3 times in the last 20 years since I've been coaching as certified coach.
That's good that they evolve, because some
Exactly.
sciences do not. They just stick to their guns with, this is how it was, or this is what we originally thought. And even if they've been proven wrong,
I know.
they still keep it that way, and they still teach it that way. That's cool. You're making me like archery even more.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate, what was it, a month ago that I went on that bison experiment? Roughly? Yeah.
It was a little bit more.
Okay.
Just over a month.
So I got to go on a bison experiment with, are you familiar with Donnie Dust?
No.
He's been on like the TV show Alone. He's a primitive survival guy. He made me all these arrowheads.
That's where these came from. Yeah, they're beautifully napped heads. Holy man.
He's an incredible napper, and he makes his own bows, and he does it all kind of the primitive traditional way, I guess. And most of his stuff is set up that way. But he's been hired by CU Boulder. I don't know hired, but he was brought in to some science experiments with CU Boulder on hunting megafauna. So the closest thing that we have to megafauna now, like a mammoth or something like that, is bison. So they've gotten to do all these experiments where they've thrown atlatls. He shot his bow in a bison. They're looking at penetration, point break, different rocks from different regions, different methods of like fluting the arrowhead or spear point, and how much they fill the flute, foreshaft or no foreshaft, like different types of wood from willow thickets and
stuff. Yeah, this stuff is interesting.
So he invited me on one, and we got to field dress a bison using nothing but stone tools.
Nice.
And it was an incredible experiment.
Was it to you surprisingly effective?
Unbelievably effective.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Bobby, where did those the ones that he sent to us, those videos that he sent to us?
Maybe if you go to text messages and look for Donnie Dust, I think,
because that's crazy.
Those are actually Devin's videos, but he said that we could use them. So Dr. Devin Pettigrew is actually going to be my next guest. I think he's coming in next week if we can get him in here.
Nice.
And he's the guy that put on this experiment. But they had probably about 20 makers and 300 different points, maybe. I don't know.
Wow.
And they would dye the point. So they would put like this special ink on it. It almost looked like green or purple or something. So like if a little chip broke off or if the edge wore or something like that, they could see at the point break, and they had high-speed cameras.
Check this out, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, look at the penetration on that.
Carcass,
Yeah. I think that was a slate arrowhead from like Arctic slate or something.
Wow.
But pretty unbelievably effective. And kind of the science behind it. And this is so they can better understand when they find stuff like at this Folsom site or something like that. That's an atlatl dart.
Okay.
So, I mean, look at it in comparison to that bison. That's probably 3/4 of an inch, the shaft.
Wow.
But it was really cool. And just the methods of construction is what I really got into. Like, so there's the foreshaft that goes into that shaft, and they machined it or hand made it perfectly so it would stop because they were breaking their foreshafts. And like, so this is I got invited on like the 5th experiment that they've done, I think. So they've learned a lot along the ways of the construction methods and, you know, how much the flute should be filled. And there's a ton of nappers that were involved with this too. But Donnie and Dr. Devin Pettigrew and then myself. And then the second half of the experiment was us field dressing it.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. They let me take a ton of meat. Donnie was gracious enough. So like,
nice.
I mean, I got a ton of bison meat out of it. It was up in the Medicine Bow at Eagles Wing Ranch, incredible ranch. You know, just an incredible process. I will never complain about cutting up an elk with a perfectly good blade again in my life after using stone tools for 7 or 8 hours.
Can I tell a couple related stories with stone stuff?
Yeah.
So a buddy of mine was into arrow hunting. It was his favorite hobby, and he was a heck of a flint napper. He made me a Skinner scraper, and it was like about that big. I'm holding my fingers apart like 3 inches, right? And you held it in your hand, and it fit right in your hand, so you got your 4 fingers around and your thumb on top, right? Anyway, I carried that, you know, one of those old coin purses, plastic that you pinch and it's split down the middle and it opens up, and I carried that in my pack for a year. I didn't get anything, or I forgot to take it with me, and then I got an elk, and I skinned a whole elk with that thing. And so it was highly effective, right?
It's unbelievable.
I was with Tyler Frio, who's a full-time writer for Outdoor Life now, a couple years ago, shoot a grizzly bear with a longbow, a wood arrow, and a stone point.
Wow.
That was quite an experience.
And that incredible
stone point was tuned to this arrow. It was about 200 grains, and he had a flint napper out of Utah make 2 of them. And we were sitting in tree stands or a baited site, and this grizzly bear came in, and it was quartered more towards Tyler than Tyler thought, and he hit it right behind the shoulder, but I could tell the exit was going to be far back on the other side. So lethal hit, but not immediately lethal. The bear roared. I was 10 yards from the bear, sitting in a tree when it was shot, holding 2 cameras, one on Tyler and one on the bear.
Oh my gosh.
And this thing roars and takes off, and Tyler said, it stopped 60 yards away. It's dead right there. And I'd seen the angle. I said, Tyler, I think we ought to probably come back tomorrow for that. He's quartered to you pretty bad. I don't think we should go look for that in an hour. And he goes, oh, no. I could hear it stop in 60 yards. And I can hear him for 150 yards here. So I said, I don't know, Tyler. I think probably tomorrow's better. So I looked at I reaped around the tape, and I had it on tape, and I could see how 1:45 it was. I said, no, Tyler, we'll come back. No. So we had this rolling conversation. Now I'm being obnoxious, you know. And so I said, anyway, I kind of said, well, you got to see this video. He goes, well, Bluetooth it to me. I'm like, you can do that? So he gave me an instruction. We're in 2 tree stands, right?
Right.
And so he looks at it and he goes, yeah, maybe we'll wait 2 hours. I said, maybe tomorrow morning. And he goes, not 2 hours, because I heard it stop. I heard it. And then I got him to 3 hours.
Walking up on a wounded grizzly.
We got him to 3 hours, and we went to the boat because we were off of a river. And he got this big old 375 Ruger, and he's got a chest rig with a Glock 10 millimeter, and we go looking for the blood trail. There's not much blood. And man, I'm looking for stuff to dive under. This is like all hairs standing up experience, and that thing, there was nothing but chest high brush in front of us, and he hears it stand up, and he sticks his fist out behind me to stop, and he backs up really slow, and he said, it's right there. It's right there. We got to sneak out of here. So we snuck out, came back the next day. That had gotten it to move, but that thing stood up in front of us 15 yards away.
Wow.
Plenty lively. That was a close call. Had one of the best experiences of our life. The blood ran out. We were tracking depressions in the fauna and found it about 600 yards away, expired. But got to participate with that and see my friend Tyler take a grizzly bear with a longbow, wood arrow, and a stone point.
That's
It was
incredible.
really cool. And that stone point did the job. If not for the animal being 1:45, if it had been more broadside, it had been double long, it had been over in 30 seconds, you know.
Yeah.
But completely passed through the length of the animal, went into the out the back of the far side and into the back leg and shattered the back leg bone.
It's incredible, man. Like some of those points were shattering ribs on a bison.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it still had some of its winter coat on. So that was like
I'm looking at those videos. That's a
Yeah.
lot of hide that thing's got to go through. Long hair.
long hair up front. And we had a couple pass-throughs too. These are just a couple.
Wow.
But, they brought up a good point too when I was up there, because I was the annoying guy that got brought along on a science experiment,
Yeah.
So I'm asking Devin all kinds of stupid questions, I'm sure.
There's that one that failed.
Oh, yeah. It looked like it
See
must
that?
have hit a rib. Point broke off and bounced straight back out.
And a lot of it was the attachment method to the actual force shaft.
As it
and
broke,
like
it robbed
construction,
all the
right?
penetration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then but the point that he was making, he's like, some of the experiment that they can't do is like, when this thing penetrates and sticks in there, even if it doesn't pass through,
Mm-hmm.
if the animal starts to run or move, it's just sitting
Cutting
in there
everything in there.
sawing,
Yeah. Yep.
And these things are pretty gnarly. And
Did they find that the smaller heads, like what they'd call bird points, actually penetrated better?
that's what that slate, I think that one that had such good penetration, and actually there was one stuck in a rib. So the slate looked like it was machine made almost.
It was so perfect.
I mean, it was so perfect
I think
because
this is
you
the one
can
that
file
Donnie
it
was
down.
talking about. You
And
see
it-
how that's swaying back and forth?
Oh yeah, that's an atlatl though.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. So that point was probably, I mean, it wasn't, I've found some bird points that are like, I mean,
Yeah.
tiny, right?
Yeah.
But like this one was probably about a half an inch wide or 3/4 of an inch wide at the back, where you tie it on.
Yeah.
And maybe, I'm going to say 1.25 inches or something in overall length. And it looked like one of your 2-blade cutthroat broadheads almost.
Okay.
I mean, just beautiful. Whoever the napper was that made that, I was like,
Yeah.
did this come out of a machine? And they're like, no, it was handmade. But these are the points that they find in the Arctic.
Gotcha.
Up there. So that, I mean, they had stone from like Georgetown, they had obsidian, and I even found like in the butchering process. So these are some of the ones that I actually use. So that Donnie calls them blooded, but all these ones I said, if you're going to invite me on this, I want to bring these up to the experiment. So I started with that one. And what I quickly found out is these flakes like this that have no serration or anything to them
Really good.
were the key to like getting through the hide and like especially around the neck and on the hoofs.
Well, the
and
point
stuff
is
like
so
that.
much fun, or the edge is so much finer on
it's
this.
so much. Yeah,
This was like what I used. It was
it works unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean,
incredible.
yeah. And then some of these are so sharp. I had all kinds of nicks on my hand, but this one's made of obsidian. So I quickly found out, this is almost like a glass.
Yes.
So that one was more of like a surgical tool, and it's
Yeah.
pretty dull now, but like that's what I was taking some of the organs and stuff out with, where you had to make some like really fine cuts and through soft tissue.
Nice.
Yeah. So what a cool experience.
Yeah, I wish you
got
guys could
invited
see these knives or heads. They're beautiful.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm super fortunate. And then to get the meat on top of that, and just the whole experience was incredible.
Good
but
for you.
That's enough about me. But yeah, I guess going back to the history, like I'm so intrigued by that. That's why it was so special for me to go on this.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn something about yourself when you face a little bit of adversity. Because like an hour in, I was like, oh my God, this is going to take forever.
Yeah.
Right. And just me and Donnie going to town and like, there's all kinds of stuff that you learn, and it makes you appreciate like a good blade, like,
No,
but at
that's
the same time, like I want to put myself back through that punishment, of going and doing it again.
That's a big animal. That's a lot of cutting and a lot of time and a lot of hard work. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It produced a lot of good meat, though, right?
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It was a great experience. You've had some pretty incredible experiences in the last couple of years too. Like you just recently back from Australia, you've had an Alaska trip, you've got Colorado moose under your belt. Like, let's hear about some of that. I mean, where do you want to start?
So this last March and April, I got to go to Australia and New Zealand. And here again, I told you about the relationships I get to make through archery. A fellow named Ben Mayer had come to America to go to our big traditional shoot up on the Flat Tops area, and came see Joel and me and get some coaching, and wanted to visit America. And that was the weekend that whole thing got rained out. But anyway, Joel flew home, and Ben was going to be around for another 3 days, and he was in a hotel. And I said, Ben, check out of your hotel. You're coming home with me. We'd kind of hit it off. He's a really good man, really good dude. Oh, no, I couldn't. And he couldn't impose. And I was like, Ben, you will insult me if you don't check out of your hotel and take up what I'm offering here. I'd like you to come and stay with us. And so I kind of put the pressure on him, and so he did. And I took a couple days off, and we went up, and he wanted to stump shoot in our mountains, and we shot our bows, and we, saw some sights, and had a little taste of Colorado, and worked on our shots, and worked on his shot. And
had he ever been to the Rocky Mountains before?
No,
or is
this was I'm pretty sure the first time.
It's so different than Australia, huh?
Oh,
like he must have been.
Yeah, he loved it. So when we were up in that high country shoot, I set up a big wall tent with a stove in it. We had a foot of snow that night. Gets up with a cup of coffee cooked on the wood stove, and he's, in the middle of this elk country, and he's like, yes, this is a good experience. I'm with these kind of men in this kind of environment. He loved it, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, sometime later he says, Tom, I'd like you to come to Australia and do some shooting clinics, and I want to go with you to New Zealand, do a red stack hunt, you and Joel.
Oh my God.
And I was kind of like, ooh, I don't really have that kind of budget, in the archery business. You don't get real rich. And like, oh, buddy, that sounds awesome, but I don't know I have to see what that costs and how long I'll have to save for that. I'd love to do it, absolutely. And he's like, no, I didn't say anything about you paying for it, mate. You're coming. You're coming. This is on me. And I was like, oh, I couldn't.
Really?
No, I couldn't accept something like that. Those are expensive. And he's like, well, you will insult me, mate, if you don't accept my offer. He said, I'm pretty well healed. I can afford this.
What's this guy's name so we can give him a shout out?
Ben Mayer, M-A-H-E-R, Ben Mayer. He's a tremendous guy. He's like
John Mayer's uncle.
Ben Mayer 73 on Instagram. Terrific guy and a Renaissance man. I mean,
that's awesome.
He's born with a really good education, but he was a Muay Thai fighter for 13 years.
Really?
He's a horseman, a wrangler. He's a musician. I mean, consummate Renaissance guy, tough guy, cultured guy, extremely intelligent, can talk about the history of American archery better than any American I've ever been around.
Really?
Grew up in archery also. Loves the longbow.
Is this him?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There he is. Yeah. Up there. I don't know what those pictures are about. Ones I haven't seen. Oh, there's us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's in New Zealand right there. A picture in the high country.
How about us as New Zealand, man?
It's a pretty cool place. Yeah. That's the guy. Just a terrific man. I made a friendship be lifelong. Is
he Australian or is he
Australian?
Kiwi?
He's from Melbourne, and that's
okay.
where he lives.
Nice.
So we spent like 2.5 weeks with him in Melbourne, a week in New Zealand with him, and I don't know about him, but we never got tired of him. His company was fantastic, and unbelievable host, generous person. Had a fantastic experience there. Did a 2-day shooting clinic with a bunch of Aussies, and then a 1-day, but up at the horse ranch where he kind of grew up. And this clinic was a bunch of rough characters. I mean, when I say rough, rugged outdoorsmen. So there's some guys from way up north, some guys travel 1,000 miles, but these are rugged men, right? And there was one of his friends.
Outback guys,
yeah. And some just really good hunters and sportsmen in the mix, right? But a mix of Aussies, right, from all over the place. And then there was one of Ben's friend named Andy, and Andy's a musician, and he is an artist of some kind and a musician, and he's legally blind. He can't see anything in focus past 2 inches past his eye. So, and then everything, the world is a blur to him. But Andy came, and Andy kind of wanted to be among these type of fellas, right? And has been a city, cultured guy, but he kind of wanted to be with men, right? So we go to this clinic, and Ben's hoping for the best. And it was like a weekend, so Friday night they got there, and they all had a chance to have a beer and shoot their bows together and get to know each other. And I was seeing these men from all over Australia bond, right? And so then we did this clinic, and then we did a lot of shooting that first afternoon, and then we did some more clinic in the morning, and we're shooting. But during that time, I'm noticing that Andy has been pulled in by these rugged fellas right into the group. I'm hearing him talk, and one of the guys says, well, you see what I mean, Andy? And one of the other fellas says, of course he can't see what you mean. He's a blind bastard. Well, that was the most perfect thing that man could have said, because now Andy's part of the group. He's getting his chops busted like everybody else.
Busted, right?
Exactly. Right. And Andy had the biggest smile on his face. He knows he's one of those men now. It was just so cool to see how they welcomed him in from a different part of the country, different kind of culturally, and made him a part of everything. It was so heartwarming. Andy, anyway, had always shot with a spotter because he can't see, right?
Right.
And so Andy came to me and said, Tom, is there any way you think you could help me shoot without a spotter? So when a person's limited in what they can do physically, you always ask them what they can do, not what they can't do, right?
Right.
So I said, yeah, I think so, Andy. I said, when you hold that bow out at arm's length, can you see the shape of the bow and the shape of the arrow sitting on top of the arrow shelf? And he goes, yep. Yeah, of course it's fuzzy, but I can see that. I said, well, we were standing about 25 yards from the target, and there was a black bullseye. I said, Andy, can you see the bullseye? What do you see down there at the target? He goes, yeah, I see the, a fuzz of the target face, but I see a black fuzzy spot. I said, if you can see that, Andy, you don't need a spotter. I said, what we're going to do is we're going to build a sight picture. So you're going to come into holding, and I was looking at the gap and like how his face was set up, and I made a guess, right? I said, you're going to hold that arrow. You can see the top of that arrow, that shape of the top of the arrow. You're going to hold that about 6 inches below that black spot, and you're going to let your brain settle on that, and you're just going to look at that black spot. And then, just as we've been learning the last day and a half, you're going to produce that back tension through the string right to your follow-through. And it's all you, bud. So let's try it. So he comes up into holding. You see him adjusting to the sight picture of what he can see, right? He can see two fuzzy things that he can connect together in a spatial relationship, and he produces this shot. And I guessed just right. That arrow went right in the middle of that black spot. And he goes, where did it hit? I said, buddy, that's right in the middle of the bullseye. Nice shot, dude. Well executed shot. And he's like, you're kidding me. I said, I am not kidding you. Do it again. He had 7 arrows. Make a long story short, he shot all 7 arrows. And what I do, I say, you won't believe it. You got to come up and see this, Andy, because that is the finest shooting of anybody in the clinic here. And I'm walking up there, and I go, hey, guys, come look at what Andy just did. This is all unaided, all unspotted. He had a group of arrows you could put your thumb and index finger around at 25 yards with a longbow. And those guys were patting him on the back, lifting him up like, holy mackerel. Seriously, that was a skill set that Andy developed all on his own.
That's worth the trip right
how
there.
How cool
huh?
was that?
Yeah,
and to see
awesome.
how warm those guys with this guy that felt like an outsider but was made an insider.
Yeah.
What a cool bunch of guys. And I communicate with a lot of them still. One of the guys, Colin, gave me a bow that he made. He's a bowyer out there. And he gave me this absolutely knockout beautiful bow, Outlaw Bows. And so, anyway, just the experience of that was phenomenal, and getting to know these guys from another country. But seeing a culture and the difference in foods, difference in politics. They're not divisive like we are.
No.
The news is not divisive. I watched the news. There's like an hour or two news, and that's it. It was like the Green Party suggested this, this, and this, and the Conservatives oppose it for this, this, and this. And they move on.
It's really the facts, right?
They don't say,
they
well,
kind of are like just a good time.
Underhanded crook did this, and the other side says the same thing. It wasn't any of the divisiveness. So they kind of agree to get along. They're like 40 yards behind us in that case. It was refreshing, honestly. It was awesome. But very multicultural. The people in the outdoor arena out there, gregarious and as welcoming as you could find. The experience in New Zealand was awesome. Gorgeous country. Now,
It's unbelievable.
Colorado we have as pretty a places, honestly, but it's a different environment, different fauna. Really weird. No bugs, no biting bugs, no mosquitoes, and red stag or, red deer are like an elk-like creature, about 3/4 the size of an elk, but with these giant antlered racks that palmate at the top with lots of points, and spectacular animal. I had 2 close encounters, and the stags got lucky. No kidding. I won't tell hunting stories, but the stags just got lucky. that they didn't get shot by me because I did everything right. But it was a fantastic experience, and I've already booked to go back next year.
Are you?
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
with Ben and hopefully my sons this time. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Unbelievable. But
yeah, look at
archery,
those stags, man. That's unbelievable.
Archery has given me these relationships that also allow me to do some fantastic things in different places with these too.
That's kind of how
so
I feel about podcasting too. It's the same sort of thing. Like I've built so many relationships sitting in this
your
room.
world expands, right? With the wonderful people you get to meet. Got to, like Tyler Friel, he came down, wrote an article about archery coaching, and I said, stay at the house. Got to know him over 3 days, staying at the house and coaching him archery. Probably the finest example of a technically sound shooter of anybody I know. I've had a lot of guys stay at the house and get to know them through, because if they're in a hotel and I get to know them and say, check out of your hotel, you're coming home.
Yeah.
But
it's incredible.
Anyways, that's what it's been to me. It's been a tremendous life expanding thing.
Yeah, I actually,
like
before I forget, and I don't mean to change the subject because I want to come back to some of these other trips that you've been on recently, but we recently had Donnie Vincent in, and he thinks the world of you. By the way,
we love Donnie. He's the real deal, man. He's a great guy.
He's just a good human, and I wasn't sure. You never know when you see somebody on camera or something like that. Like kind of what I was talking about.
You never know.
They take the context out of it, but I've always loved the way that he portrays hunting. Like I align with his values and the heart, and then him as an artist, as a film director, is unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Like. The shots that he takes and the amount of time that goes in and the thought process that goes into actually making a film.
The cinematography he started it. They started it. Yeah. Nobody was doing that before Donnie Vincent and his films. The skill level, of putting that whole thing together. There's nobody like him.
And even the short films I thought were really well done, like Who We Are. I don't know if you've seen that or some of them. I mean, if you haven't, go and check them out. But anyways, how I discovered Donnie was from you. Because I walked into Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear and I was shooting some arrows, and there's this gigantic, I think it was a Hoyt banner or something.
I think it's a PSE banner
or
with Donnie on
PSE
it.
banner.
Yeah.
Sorry, PSE.
Yeah.
Giant, like a 20 by 30 banner or something, right? It's huge. And Donnie's like walking through a creek, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And like, if Tom's putting him up in his archery shop, he must be a good human. I said, do you know this guy? Yeah. And you were like, yeah, that's Donnie Vincent or whatever. And so then I went down a rabbit hole and started watching his films and just absolutely fell in love with his films.
Yeah.
So when I started this podcast, you were a bucket list. I made like a bucket list of guests that I wanted to have on, and he was one of them. And I got to check that box this year. But just an incredible dude. But that's thanks to you and me, throwing some arrows at the targets there and seeing this guy, more than life-size character on the side of the wall, and it was Donnie Vincent.
And in the hunting world, he's super well known.
Yeah.
He's a big name, and he does spectacular adventures, and he's a tough guy. There's real deal as far as an outdoorsman. He's, I think, a wildlife biologist of some kind. He's super knowledgeable. But then you meet him in life, and he's that guy. He's just a genuine, nice human being, good dude, good guy,
great guy,
great person, righteous person. I really admire Donnie.
We had a great time with him, man, and for him to travel all this way and then come see us.
He's been extremely generous to our family. He's a good dude.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, super happy I was able to cross paths with him, and super happy he was on that PSE banner, because I probably would have. I don't really watch hunting shows because it takes kind of.
Haven't in a long
Me
time.
and him talked about that. Like, I can't sit there and watch the Outdoor Channel, and I've been watching a little bit of Derek Wolf just because he's a friend, and he started his own kind of hunt channel and stuff like that. And but other than that, I don't really watch hunting shows.
Yeah, I haven't watched any in several years.
Yeah,
these are different though. I'm flipping through his YouTube, just this video, and every I can keep flicking through, and each one is like an epic.
Yeah, epic.
Oh
series.
yeah, they're incredible.
No
I've
kidding.
bought every one of his films.
He's not just pounding content in to make a video. This is very well thought.
I mean,
out.
they could be shown in an IMAX theater. The quality
totally.
of them too, like it's
incredible. And
start to finish, the stories, it's done really, really well. Yeah, he's a great guy. So yeah, Australia, New Zealand. And then
I got to go to Alaska last year.
Yeah.
And
was that with Tyler? Was that
yeah,
this bear
yeah.
story
He
that you
invited
just
me.
told?
No, that was previous years.
Okay.
That was it's like 60 miles up the Yukon River in boats. In a
I
remote
remember
camp
seeing
and
some
a black
footage
bear
of
hunt.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fishing, with these little clear, little small rivers or creeks flow into the Yukon. The Yukon is this unbelievable mass of moving water with giant trees floating down and all kinds of stuff because, I don't know, it's one of the biggest rivers in the world, and its water's brown, so it's in the early summer, spring, so it's part of the runoff. I couldn't go one year because the ice flows were late, and it's just too dangerous. But it's like 70 boat miles up there, and so that's some serious. Those guys who run those boats got to be on their toes because there's lots of giant things floating down that river at you.
Yeah.
And so
It's so cool navigating on water to a hunt trip. That's something that I haven't done, but Donnie shows some of that, like on his.
It was an adventure.
That's cool.
That's an adventure.
Yeah.
And sitting there and maybe fishing on one of those side where the creek come in and hearing these giant splashes where these trees they finally decayed the banks, and then these massive trees fall into the river, and they're just every 15, 30 seconds there's another one falling in the river because the forest is getting eaten away by the river kind of. It hit a certain place in the bank where they.
That's a different type of country up there, isn't it? And
it's absolutely spectacular. And 24 hours of light is really weird. And, and that whole experience is something else. But yeah, I just like being with Tyler. He's age or even younger than my sons, but I have this friendship with him that we can talk anytime. It's like yesterday, and we geek out about shooting or hunting, and I always am interested in how his family's doing. So it's another rewarding relationship with great friendships that archery's given to me.
Yeah.
This thing that I do.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then, was it this year that you had the Colorado moose tag, or you guys drew two Colorado moose tags?
Yeah, my wife and I drew. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Like before. Ashley's got one coming up. My daughter-in-law has one coming up.
Oh, no way.
But anyway, my wife and I drew archery cow moose tags, and she ended up not being able to bow hunt because her shoulder was dinged up. She couldn't get her shoulder rehabbed to where she could shoot a hunting weight bow again. So we traded hers on a rifle tag. So I got one with my bow, and Chris ended up getting with a rifle. So we've got lots of meat this year for the entire family. You
got a big family now. So
I do. Yeah, I got 10 grandkids now.
Really?
Yeah. Tommy had 4, and Danny had 3, and my daughter's got 3. So we got a crew.
Yeah, you got a full crew to feed.
Yeah.
How much do you like being a grandfather? Like having the grandkids?
It's the best part of life. Yeah. It's absolutely the best part of life. And I'm looking at how my kids are raising their kids. And so my daughter's kids are the oldest, and they're my buddies, man. We shoot together all the time, and I take them to the archery shoots, and they're really good little archers. Sorry, Tommy and Danny, I just didn't know how to coach back when you guys were coming up, But my
Danny's
grandkids,
a heck of a hunter too. I'd love to have Danny in if he would come. I've never really had a chance to. Every time I'm in the shop, he's so busy.
Danny is the man. He is amazingly skilled. He's the entire package. He's got the physicality to do the miles and cover the country, but he's got the patience to sit on a spotting scope for a couple of days if he needs to. It can spot and stalk. I mean, he can move with imperceptible movement for hours on end to get close to something.
Well, it shows in just some of the animals that he's put on the ground, man. It's unbelievable.
He's got tremendous trophies, and he doesn't advertise. You don't probably even know about it except I've showed you. It's not for fame or something.
Danny's not a guy that'll sit here and tell you.
If he's going for a trophy, it's just to extend his hunting time, because he'll take that nice juicy cow elk just fine, but he'll hunt for that big bull because he can get that cow on the first day. Well, let's extend our season, immersion in the woods with these animals longer, right? And he's ended up taking some big trophies along the way.
That's awesome. Yeah, Danny, if you're listening to this, you're next, buddy. So I'm going to
put
you in the hot seat.
He's an unbelievably good storyteller.
Really?
Unbelievable. So have him talk about like when my son-in-law got his first elk, and let him tell that story, because it's not about him. So he'll tell a good story about Kelly getting his
I'm
first
sure he's
elk,
got some stories about you too, huh?
It's probably,
Yeah.
maybe some embarrassing ones too. But
Yeah.
but if he can get him to tell a story about a hunting experience that he did himself, it's very interesting, and he's a good storyteller. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have him in. So somehow I gotta.
And
Well, I can't
knowledge-based.
wrestle him to get him in here. That's for
don't do
sure.
that.
So
yeah.
not with your son's pedigrees and wrestling. Were you a wrestler as a kid?
Oh,
or-
junior high and high school. So I was this average wrestler and never got a lot of coaching. But
Now, was your dad a hunter, or your father
No.
a hunter, or
no, and
wrestler, or
Dad was
anything?
gone about by the time I was 14. I had some help from friends' dads that would bring me here and there. No, it's something that was, and I had half brothers that would take me here and there. So it spawned out of my own desire, and it spawned out a lot of those old Fred Bear movies and American Sportsman. You got to be
we
old to
talked
even
about
know that show.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of those just because
Yeah.
I grew up in a bow hunting family, so it was like
Yeah.
that's what was on the TV on Saturday night when they
Yeah.
had VCRs or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then I think
Yeah.
wasn't American Sportsman on like Saturday or Sunday morning or something like
Kurt
that?
Gowdy's American
Yeah.
Sportsman. And they'd have hunting and fishing segments of all different kinds. Mostly it was rifles, but they always had Fred Bear segments.
Yeah.
And then Fred Bear had those movies that would travel to the theaters.
So was he kind of a mentor of you? I mean, he was to so many bow hunters
he's
from
the
your
guy
era.
that, you know, watching those films planted the seed, planted the dream of wanting to do that. Yeah.
He's got some crazy films too. Like
Yeah.
I need to go back and watch some of them. I forget, we were podcasting with somebody and somebody had brought up a film where he shot a grizzly through its eye, like in
Really?
Alaska, why it's charging him. See if, wasn't that Fred Bear? Pretty sure it was Fred Bear.
I know there's
Look
one of Fred Bear shooting a giant brown bear that walks by a boulder.
Oh, maybe
It's
it
not-
was a brown bear.
But he didn't shoot an eye, but he shot it walking by a boulder at like point blank range.
Wow.
Yeah, there it is on the bottom left of that giant brown bear. Yeah.
But anyways, just some incredible films.
Yeah. That guy planted a dream in tens of thousands of people to be bow hunters. Watching Fred Bear special
That's
event.
awesome.
Yeah, there's that grizzly bear walking by the boulder. Bam,
Wow.
point blank. That's what's not even 10 yards away, 8 yards away. Yeah, he's quite a guy. He's
I
the
don't
guy
think
that
it
does-
was Fred Bear that actually, now that I'm recalling,
Yeah, I
but
don't-
there's somebody that there was a grizzly charging him and he
and happened to
shot
hit
it.
it in the eye.
It might have been Fred Bear. I can't remember.
very
Or one of
fortunate.
his
Very
hunting partners.
fortunate.
Jeremy, see if you can find that. And
But there's a lot
But
of
yeah.
guys that have planted that seed. Fred Eichler planted the seed for so many.
Yeah.
Aaron Snyder planted the seed for in traditional archery or in archery in general for so many. There's
a lot
modern
of brand new
guys.
Cafaro backpacks out there in the woods
Ain't that the
nowadays.
truth? Yeah,
That's awesome. They make an awesome pack.
they do.
No, that's good. I think you've been one of those influences too. For me, mainly, you know, it's just I love. One time I walked into the archery shop and I don't even know what we were talking about or what subject, but like there was something. Oh, it was when I was thinking about making the switch to traditional archery.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the story on the previous podcast. I had bought like a longbow on Marketplace. And I came in, it was way too heavy, and like there's no way I could even shoot that thing today.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked me into getting into a recurve, which I still own and still will plink around with every once in a while. But there was something, I don't know how we got down this subject, but you were talking about, you know, all these guys come in and want to tell me these stories of 60, 70, 80 yard shots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to hear those stories. I want to hear the stories from 10 yards or 5
Sneaking
feet.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The spot and stock methods,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
what philosophies have you, because that's such an important part of bow hunting, especially on the traditional side, right? Like you have to, your range is cut in half of probably what a compound is, right?
third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those spot and stock methods, like somebody that's just getting into it, because I think it applies to compound hunting
Oh,
as
absolutely.
well. Like the closer
Sure.
you are, the better chance you're going to have, and the
Yeah.
more accurate shot you're going to have,
Of course.
even with a rifle.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
So like wind's super important, like the telltale signs and all that sort of stuff. But like I've had points where I've stalked in on deer or something, mule deer, with like in just my socks, just because my boots, I can feel the ground, right?
Yep.
And I actually developed plantar fasciitis from doing it one time, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because I went so far and left my boots I didn't throw them in my pack. I was in the middle of the hunt, but yeah, I think just those little things are like a lot of. Just a little, like even clicking the release that I have now, I've blown elk out on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those little things like that, are so important. Like, what can you give me some advice? This isn't even for our listeners. This is like all those years and traditionally bow hunting and some of the animals that you guys have put on the ground.
So if you're in a stock, go back to how you finish a shot. You have to be very cognitive. You just can't be automatic about anything. You just can't take a step. You have to move slow enough where you can stop that step in the middle of it. You can change speeds with your movements. I've done that where elk, I'm in forest and elk came up and bedded 40 yards down below me. And so now there's 12 of them down there. And the one I want to get to is I got to move 20 yards in view of these things. I did it. But I was moving so slow, it was literally to be imperceptible. Imperceptible movement. That is a pain in the butt. If I'm moving like this, I'm moving in front of you. If I'm in your peripheral, you're not even going to pick that movement up. I'm just moving slide to the side, super slow for Bobby right now. But then a footstep, that foot has to move that slow. It has to be moved like this. And then you got to wiggle a little turf out of the way with your toe real slow so you can step down on something that's not going to pop or snap. I mean, it's patience, it's consciousness. Before you go, you better know any article of clothing that's going to scrape. If a little branch or a twig scrapes by it, it can't make noise. So your articles of clothing all have any little snaps or things on your bino harness, any hard surface that might smack another hard surface. 2 buttons clacking together.
Plastic clips.
Plastic clips. You got to know all that before you even try, because those will expose you in the moment. Because when you're being that slow and you clack something like that, and that head flashes to you and he's got you zeroed in, like, dang, Yeah. You know what I mean?
Paying attention to wind, I think, is important too. And
it's the number one thing of all bow hunting,
and it can change in a heartbeat, right? Like, that's just Mother Nature. But do you find yourself, like, I sometimes find myself when I'm spot and stalking, and I don't know if this is a good method or if it's just a waste of time, is I'll wait for something to get loud, like almost like a distraction, whether it's a bird chirping or the wind blowing leaves.
High wind
then
is
I'll
awesome.
start moving a little bit faster, and then
the high wind is your friend. It covers up a lot of your own noise. Absolutely. High wind is you waiting for those gusts to make a couple steps real quick if you need to.
Now, are you a guy, not to get too personal here, but are you a guy to start stripping down and like shed a pack or shed shoes or
if I have
loud clothing?
I have a couple times I've shed my boots and a pack, and I snuck right down at a herd of elk once like that. I took the pack off, took the boots off, and it was in my socks, and got right down on the edge of this herd, and the big bull walked in and it promptly was staring at me. He walked in. I got caught in the open. I was trying to sneak down to the edge and shoot from the edge of the trees, but he walked in the trees with me. There's little finger trees that went down right next to this herd. I got right down next to the herd. He walks into the trees with me, and he's staring at me the whole time. And I got caught at half draw, and he never picked me out. Really? He just decided to walk straight away. And so now there's no shot. But years later, I thought about what I should have done. And years later, I snuck down on a herd of elk that were crossing this bench. There was a herd bull, and that big bull I got mounted in the shop, and I snuck down to the edge of it. And cow goes by, cow calf goes by, cow calf. And I was waiting, and that bull popped up 10 yards to my right and walked by at 5 yards. Too. And I thought, well, I'll let him keep walking and shoot him quartered away. But he decided right in front of me to turn and walk straight away. So I thought, oh, crap, you got to be kidding me. I did everything right. Luck was in my favor. Murphy was asleep until right now, and he's walking straight away. I said, I got to make a noise to make him turn around.
Oh, yeah.
I told you that story. So I went, ew, ew. I made this little high up and down pitched noise to see. I had, like, shall I chirp like a cow? No, he's got cows chirping around him. Shall I make a bark? No, that's an alarm call. And I'll just make a weird noise, and hopefully he'll turn around to see what it is, right? And so I made this noise. I can't reproduce it because right at the moment my testicles aren't in my stomach like at the time. But I made this little high up and down noise, happens, huh? And he turned completely sideways to see what the heck that was, and I shot him through the heart. And that previous experience had made me think, well, I got to do something. I can't let him walk out of my life. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, I was bootless and packless, and that's the only way I got down there that close.
How much do you guys call when you're elk hunting? I mean, is it?
I don't want to be obnoxious, so our calls are more tactical. So if we can locate a bull by a call, I'm not going to sit there and call him from hundreds of yards away. I'm going to move to it really fast. And then there's ways, and Joel Turn talks about this kind of stuff too, is like, if you
kind of a location.
Yeah, if you cow call and you get a bugle, and a bugle stays put, it's probably a bull with other cows. If he's moving to you, or if you're whatever call you're using, and he's moving to you, you got a lone bull, and you got a good chance of intercepting him. If it's staying put, it's probably a herd bull. So you really don't want to be bugling a lot as you're approaching him. You take the bugles out of it because he's just going to push those cows away from you.
Right. He's going to avoid confrontation.
He's going to avoid confrontation. He's going to move his cows away. So maybe cow call, get him to bugle, just so you can keep him located as you get close.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And then I'm going to get right up as close as I can to that herd, and I'm going to bugle, just a short bugle right into the herd, and make him have to chase me off because I'm too close now. He can't push his cows away. He's got to come confront me. And so that's really effective. It's just a depends type of thing. You know what I mean? But a lot of times,
it's a lot of animal behavior study.
A lot of animal behavior. A lot of times we do blind calls sometimes. I've got a bedding area. I have no way to know, but I'm in a place with the right wind, and we'll throw out some cow calls, then make it a little more aggressive. And a lot of times those bulls will drop out of their beds, especially if you've let them bed for a couple hours. So they get a full belly when they lay down. They're not interested in much, but let them be for a little bit. And then they'll walk down and check you out. And take some animals like that or gotten shots like that. It happened with my wife. We were climbed up 1,000 feet. We were checking all these bulls from the ridge line. And then we dropped over this one haul, and we're looking at the back of this lake about 9. Right about when they were going to bed, and I saw this single bull walk up in this timber, and I'm sure he was bedded in that timber. I said, sweetheart, we're going to wait till noon. We're going to go down there and call that bull in. We're going to let his belly get a little, he'll be up ready to get up and mill around a little bit and feed a little bit by noon. And she was chomping at the bit every 20 minutes like a little kid, like, let's go. I said, no, we're waiting till noon. Anyway, long story short, sure enough, I waited till noon, got down there, got 75 yards below him with the right wind, called him right in. It was really cool.
That's incredible, yeah. Yeah, I think patience is a huge part of it too, right?
Yeah.
Like just having the
like on
especially
one case,
with spot and stock.
One case patience, one case aggressiveness. Sometimes you have to push the envelope and see what you can get away with because you got a fleeting opportunity. You got to be more aggressive and knowing when to do each. But that takes a lot of mistakes to get there to know which to do.
Yeah,
it's a calculated guess every time, but you got to try this,
I'm still
try that,
making them.
And just find out what works eventually, what doesn't work.
Yeah. How long have you been at this now? Is it 30
Since
plus years?
1976.
God, yeah. So how long is that? 40 years?
Like 45 years, yeah.
It's 47.
That's incredible. Have you ever had
I know how old I am.
Yeah.
That's incredible for you to be traditionally hunting.
Yeah, my goal. I'm 69. I was late to hunt another 10 years.
69. That's a good year, huh?
Yeah, I get teased that I should act my age and stuff like that.
Oh, Tom with the dirty joke here.
Hey, I identified it as somebody else's joke.
Yeah. You can do that nowadays.
But anyways, I want to do this elk hunt correctly, which takes some distance, some elevation. I want to be able to do this for 10 more years. That's my goal. Keep myself in good enough shape.
Well, you're in phenomenal shape. I had no idea you were that old. I mean, until the last time
that's
you were
my goal.
Well, the last time you were in, you were 66. So that's how long it's been since you've been here.
About 3 years, yeah.
That's awesome. Dude, thank you so much for coming today. This
has been my pleasure,
This
buddy.
has been awesome.
It's always my pleasure when I get to hang out with you, though.
Yeah. Over these years, if I can keep you a little bit longer, do you have time to hang out for a little bit?
Especially if I can hit the head real quick.
Yeah, let's do it right now.
Can we
We'll
take
take
a
a break.
quick
And, yeah.
That's
You
yeah,
know, so it's
that's
like
cool.
the selfish side of it. And like just, me and Donnie Vincent, we're back. Me and Donnie Vincent were talking about this, like doing it in person and waiting.
Me and Donnie went back and forth for 6 months of like when he might have some availability where he wasn't in the Arctic.
Yeah.
Or something like that, and then me and you have been going back, to get you back in here over probably a year and a half to get you,
Yeah.
and I understand, man, like people's time is so valuable. I really want to thank you and your family just because I think time is the most valuable thing that we have. Like screw money, screw objects, screw the new car, the new truck.
It's the best thing we can give to other
like
people.
when you
too,
can understand
like
that,
our kids and
there's
valued
friends.
friends.
100%, man. And this has made me understand that. And some of the guests that I'm having in, I know how busy I get and the platform that I have. And if there's somebody that's a Stanley Cup champion or a Super Bowl champion or a dude, I
so
do
many people
not sweat
pulling
if they
their tail.
cancel on me.
Or a guy like
whatever.
Donnie Vincent.
Yeah. For him to come all the way from, up north to come hang out with us for a couple hours.
That's pretty cool.
And it was really cool because he was like, man, I really appreciate you doing it this way and being, persistent with contacting me and
Nice.
getting in here. And we have some awesome guests lined up too, in the future. But he's like, in person is so much better. We've tried to do the virtual thing and I'll do it occasionally, with like, I've done it with some wildland firefighter guys just because their time is super crucial and they have some incredible stories to tell. So if it's somebody where I can support the community or support their community or something like that, I'll go down the virtual road, but this is so much better. And going back to it, like time is so valuable. So like it really means a lot to me when I ask somebody to come on and they show up, and because you and I wouldn't have this same conversation in the archery shop.
We wouldn't have time.
There's not time, right? Like normally when I come in there, I don't even seek you out anymore just because number one, I don't want to bother you.
It's never a bother.
But I
I'm not
see
tied
the
up,
shops.
please do.
Yeah. You always come to me. So I appreciate that too. I appreciate our friendship, but I value time and I want to thank you, man. And thank your family too, because this is cutting into family time too. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but going back to this video where he shot a grizzly through the eye, it's a Tim Wells bow hunting thing.
He's done some crazy
You got to watch
stuff.
this real quick. If you haven't seen this before, this is pretty insane. So I think, look at him.
He's a crazy man.
Yeah. I wouldn't do this.
With skills that nobody else has.
Have you ever met Tim or?
No.
Okay. I haven't either.
I've watched a lot of his video stuff.
But this bear starts to charge him. Can you give us some audio, Jeremy?
You gotta be kidding me.
So people that are just listening to this, he's running up on a brown bear.
The bear faces him.
He's
He's standing in the open.
and punches it right through the eye socket.
Yeah, where was he going to go if that bear decided to
He was toast.
move on him?
He was toast. He's in incredible danger. I'm still alive.
Man, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Anyways, I knew that I'd seen that somewhere, and that's something that I would never do. And if I did, I would have to bring 3 pairs of underwear, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, have you ever had any, like, my time in the backcountry, I've ran into, this past season, I ran into a lion when I was cow calling, headed up a game trail, and just caught it out of my peripheral. And I've had some, like, close encounters with bears, but never anything super aggressive. I mean, 40 plus years of.
I've had a couple bears false charge me.
Mm-hmm.
That lit me up pretty good.
Yeah.
I was on a sow with a cub and trying to step away, and I was just kind of talking to it and kind of stepping backwards, and there was a log behind me I had to step between to get over, and so I was looking at her, and I just turned my back to the bear and stepped over this log and looked back, and she was running at me. And somebody said, and this is going to be funny, I'm busting my own chops here. Somebody said, you bark at them like a dog. So I went, arf, arf. I couldn't even come up with
the noise
I couldn't come up with a woof.
Yeah. I start screaming profanities at them. Like I've had some like kind of bluff charge or like pop their jaws occasionally,
yeah,
and I just start yelling out like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
Yeah, and that's what
like,
you're supposed to do. It's very disconcerting though.
Yeah.
When I did that, she stopped, and the little cub ran up to her side, and she like looks down at the cub and just swept the cub, and they ran off.
Really?
And
scared of chihuahuas, huh?
I thought, well, okay, she's got a cub. She's going to bat me around just like you're making all these reconciliation to what's going to happen while she was running at me. Like, I'm going to get batted around. I'm going to curl up. I got this pack on. I'm going to hunch up and cover my neck, and I'm going to ball up and cover my innards from the front, and I'm going to get bit up or batted around a little bit. I'm like, it's going to happen. Just, oh, damn, and it didn't work out that way, and it was just massive relief, and then the adrenaline washes through it and you're shaking like crazy, and so yeah, stuff like that.
Man, I could keep you in here for hours. You probably have so many stories.
I do, and then
I haven't a lot just from my 10 12 15 years of being out there.
And, it's like, I want it to be an interesting one if I'm going to tell it, and I would never, so.
Well, it doesn't have to be, too.
I shortcut them, and then I don't do it justice.
I love those funny moments, too, with your buddies. Where
I got to tell you that,
Yeah, those are great, man.
I have a friend, he's passed now, but he's the main hunting partner of mine for a long time. He goes, have you ever heard the expression, scared the pee out of you? He goes, that actually is true. He was sitting in a tree stand over a bear bait, and he, for some reason, there was a road-killed raccoon, and he grabs this raccoon, takes the bear, and hangs it over the bait. For whatever reason, he did this, just to add to the bait or whatever. Anyway, when a sow with a cub shows up, the cubs show up first. Mom follows the little babies. And so the cubs come in, and the mom kind of sits at the edge of the opening, and she's looking around, and she looks at her cub and sees that raccoon over her cubs and just goes nuts and just roll, and grabs that raccoon and just thrashes it into a bunch of pieces. And it was such a display of violence and speed and aggression. And he said he couldn't help but like, make this little sound like, like, oh, shit, right? And the bear looked at him, and she's in this giantly agitated space, So she runs to the tree and is coming up the tree, and he's like, oh my gosh, and he stands up on the tree where the seat is. He steps up there, and he's like holding the tree, and like, I don't know if I can get higher. And the branches were just orientated in just the right way where the bear came up under the tree stand and was like reaching up, trying to snag his leg.
Oh my God.
And he was standing there like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get dragged out of this tree. He's just obviously a giantly scary experience, right?
Yeah.
And she finally comes out of her agitation, goes down the tree and takes her cub and runs off. He said he immediately had to unzip and pee right from the tree. But the whole story and the way he told it was really funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just kind of like, wow. Yeah.
Shit, I psyched myself out last season. I went up solo because I couldn't go between my work schedule, the podcast, family members being injured that couldn't go on the hunt, and their work schedules. I went on a solo hunt last year, and up in the flat tops, and
nice.
It was awesome, man. I would do it again.
Yeah,
down.
A lot of people, not a lot, but there are a couple of people I know would rather do it alone, like backpack alone, be out for 10 days alone, and I get it. There's kind of like this, I can do whatever I want when I want, and you don't have to consider a partner type freedom. And I did it once over a weekend, and it didn't scare me. It was just boring to me. I like if I go to camp, I like it. You go hunt that range. That's fine with me because then I get to do what I want when I want and not worry about doing something the other guy doesn't like to do.
Sure.
If I want to go slower, I'm worrying about boring. If I want to go faster, I'm worried that he thinks I'm moving too fast. And there's that kind of stuff until you get to know a hunting partner real well and you just read each other and, you just go with the flow. And there's sometimes you need to cover country and there's sometimes you need to slow the hell down and be very alert. But
it's almost like finding a mate. It's got to be somebody that you really align with.
Yeah, and it has a similar knowledge base and similar attitudes or tactics, and those happen, there's your best hunting partners, but all alone and sitting there, like, I wasn't scared. I wasn't, nothing was bad about it. It's just, I like telling those stories to my buddy when we got back and met at camp that night.
Some of the best times I've had, some of the best conversations have either been in here or in the backcountry.
Yeah, and how more intimate can you be with whoever you're with? And when I say intimate, revealing yourself to people, then when you're going through these experiences of maybe 10 days or 7 days or 3 days.
You're going to face some adversity.
You're going to face adversity. You're going to have a lot of discomfort. And, how much better can you get to know a person than in those circumstances, in that type of togetherness?
Yeah.
I had 10 days backpack, and I might have told you this story before, but we had wool clothing back in the day. We didn't have these technical clothes. Well, wool's the best choice. It's quiet. It sheds water like a champ.
Mm-hmm.
And we had climbed up on top of Glenwood Canyon, steep hike. It was right when they were building the tunnel. This is back in the day. And I had 9 or 10 days back there up on top. And we had some severe weather, like sleet storms blowing through, rain, snow. And we get back to the tent. We had a little tent. There was just 2 of us in there. And, it's like soaked out, muddy. And that first night in,
the mud up there is different too.
My buddy, we always use synthetic bags because we always expect rain. He climbs his bag, muddy, wet wool clothes. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? He goes, oh, it'll wick it right out. You should do that. And I'm like, you're crazy. I took off my wool clothes and I climbed into my bag. And I get up in the morning. I slept comfortable. And my wool clothes are stiff. As a board. And I got to get in these frozen clothes. He climbs out of his bag. His wool clothes are dry as a bone. He flicked the frost off the top of his bag when he got up. He goes, CTC? Well, when there's a big temperature differential, when you have that stuff, the wetness goes away from heat through those type of materials.
Right.
So second night come in soaked out. I climbed in the bag, mud and all. And I'm telling you, it was cold. And it was like 10 minutes, and I started feeling really dry inside my clothes. And it wasn't an hour. I felt completely dry. In the morning, there's an inch layer of frost in the bag you dust off because it had all wicked out because there's a big temperature. You go in a 55-degree wet bag, it's going to be pretty muggy all night.
Right.
But when it's 24 degrees out, and that wicks away pretty dang fast.
No, that makes
sense. It was like a lesson learned. He taught me, and I've said this on maybe when I was with you before, rip your book, and that good hunting partner rips his book in half.
Yep.
I told you that story, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But there was like 2 of that 10 days we had to stay in tent. The winter was sleeting so much sideways. There was nothing to do but wait it out.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there like maybe closer than you and I are together right now for a couple days and nights. You get to know people, man.
Yeah.
And, if you got the right partner and you're kind of easy to get along with, those are the ones you never forget. Those are the ones you treasure.
The bonds
the
that you make too. The
bonds,
camaraderie.
The camaraderie, the thing you went through together, the difficulty of it, the discomfort of it. Those are my favorites, my absolute favorites.
Yeah, even if you did go through something like that and it wasn't even a hunting experience.
Absolutely.
Like it's the same exact thing.
You go through adversity with anybody, you bond to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so last year going on that solo hunt, I actually had some people pull in and camp right next to me, and they were an awesome couple.
Oh, that's cool.
Eric and I'm drawing a blank right now, but shout out to Eric. Colorado people from that area, grew up there, but now they lived in Arkansas or something like that. Just super cool people. I ended up going out with them a couple days. So I got to meet some people, but Eric's telling me the story, and we would go our separate ways and hunt during the day. And then it was kind of that camaraderie when I came back to
Nice.
camp, because I didn't really spike out that much and I wasn't going that deep. So I was like, I'll just go back to camp. I wasn't going more than 3 miles just in case I got something down so I could actually get it out.
Nice.
But these people were so nice, man. And I ended up hunting one afternoon with them, which was super cool. But yeah, he was telling me a story. He grew up there and he's like, yeah, I was in the back, back here in the willow brush there. I forget the acorn brush or whatever it is. Oak brush.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. He said, I turned around. He said, I just had this sixth sense and I was sitting on this water. And he said he turned around and all he saw was just a basketball size mountain lion head sticking through the oak brush about like 20 yards from him.
Yeah.
And he said, I had nothing but my bow. And he said, I instantly just grabbed an arrow and like, in the ready position, like the only thing I could think of is I'm going to stab my arrow through this, lion as it's on me. And I'm sorry, Eric, if I'm butchering your story, probably. But anyways, the next day I go out. So he told me this story in camp that night, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm cow calling, going up this trail, and I was in the elk every day that was up there. It was awesome. It was a great time. And I wasn't that far from base camp. So I get up there, it's like first light, and I see just this tail and everything just, take off through I'm pretty sure it was a lion.
Mm-hmm. Big tail.
If not, it was some sort of big cat, right? Mm-hmm. And so instantly this starts running through my head. It was actually at dark. It was at dusk when I see this, and it happens. And there's elk bugling around, so I'm sure that lion was in there doing the same thing I was doing, trying to hunt, right? And I didn't see anybody else on the trail that day. Didn't run into any other hunters the entire day. It was awesome. I was in the elk all day. It was incredible. But I'm walking back, and I think that's probably only the third lion that I've seen in the wild. And I just caught a glimpse of it. And then that story's going through my head, and I'm walking back to camp by myself with the headlamp, and there's no full moon. There's no moon this night. I mean, it is fucking dark.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I felt something grab the back of my pant leg. And I turned around and screamed like a girl.
You made sound like woman?
Yeah, 40-year-old man, right? And luckily I didn't pee my pants or anything, but still it was just like that own cycle. And then instantly I just started laughing at myself because I'm thinking, you dumbass, if it was a lion, it would have been on my shoulders, not on my pant leg,
on your neck. Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
But it was just funny how you psych yourself out. And man, I still laugh about that. Like I busted up laughing in the dark by myself, 3 miles from camp at that point. But yeah, those little moments like that are awesome. So, and there's so many stories, I'd love
so many
to
things you get to see that you never get to see otherwise, whether it be a predator-prey incident.
Even if you're not successful on a hunt,
there's always something you see just because you're there.
Yeah.
There's, you see a predator take down another small animal and sit there and kill it and eat it. I mean, city people never get to see a normal thing that happens every day, every hour.
Have you ever had a fox follow you?
No, I've had bears follow me.
Okay, yeah, I've had bears follow me too.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing there.
I had some fox that just decided we were going to be buddies for the afternoon or whatever.
Or somebody fed it or something at one time.
Probably, more than likely.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a cool experience, but people shouldn't feed wildlife. We have that problem around here. Like,
I'll bet in Evergreen.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. People just move into the area and they don't know, and next thing you know, you have
creating problems.
200-inch buck standing at your sliding glass door looking for whatever.
I had a PETA lady come into the shop to buy mountain lion scent.
Really?
Because she started feeding the raccoons on the green belt behind her, and then she had about 13 raccoons.
Yeah, that's a problem. Those things are hilarious, man. Like, have you ever seen like the montage videos of them, like in raccoons? A Dunkin' Donuts, like in the ceiling tiles, like reaching down and like grabbing donuts off the shelf? And
what amazing critters there. Tommy was helping this guy in Wisconsin, like move his haystack, and there was a nest in there with these little baby raccoons. So he takes one home, and like, don't you do that, you know. He's getting a bottle to feed it with, and like, don't you do that. You're going to get attached to the thing, and then you're going to have to get rid of it, and you're going to be all bummed out, you know. And like, no, Dad, I'm fine. Like, I'm going to raise this thing. So gets a cage for it. And at first he was a mean little shit, right? He gets this big, thick glove on.
So
he's got
this
the
is
bottle.
Danny had one as
This
a
is
pet?
Tommy.
Tommy. Okay.
And so I'm in Wisconsin, and this thing just chomps on that glove, and, you know, like, no, and he finally gets a nipple in its mouth, and then it finally got to see that you were feeding it, and then it finally got friendly, and then it would climb on your shoulders and down your arms, and he was this cool little critter, man, super cool little critter. You put him in his cage, and they're so crafty. They get in, and they'll freaking unlock the cage because they, you know, they got little
smart.
They're just smart, and he's so cool, right? And then we were going somewhere, and we kept him in the back of the pickup truck. Well, the dang thing slid the window open, jumped out. And they named him Lecter because he's so mean at first, right? And the only one who was sad was me. I was like, oh, man, I don't know where Lecter is. He says, God, is he going to make it? He's going to have to suffer. He's going to starve to death. You know what I mean? The only one bummed was me.
Yeah.
It's like, he'll be fine, Dad. You know, like, God dang it.
Oh, man. So what do you guys got coming up? I mean, you always have some sort of event or something like that going on down at the shop. We haven't even plugged the shop yet or any of the amazing stuff that you do. So I apologize. I'm keeping you here.
No
We're
sweat.
over 2 hours, so I want to fit some of that in.
Nothing else going on. But at the shop right now, this is all hands on deck.
Yeah,
we do close to 30-40% of our yearly gross in July and August.
Wow.
So we're just finishing up, all hands on deck, getting everybody ready, and then we got August to come. So we've got another month of this coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a seasonal business. It's with the hunters, that's July and August. They're getting ready to go in September, right? And then September is fairly steady, and then October drops off, and we'll start getting some leagues going, a lot more instruction, and kind of shift gears as far as the shop goes. So right now, there's not much we can plan because we're so dang busy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I already did put a red stag hunt for next year on the books with the guy, so I got that to look forward to.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
You'll have to come back and tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are neat experiences. I'll tell you, just here again, culturally, politically, just seeing the differences in the countries and how they do things and how we do things, that's interesting enough.
It's important, I think. I wish more people would experience that. And I'm fortunate in the career that I've had that I've got to go around the world and got to go to some third world countries and stuff like that. It's humbling, man.
It is humbling. There's some things they do better, or some things we do better.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot we do better.
Like our freedoms, so that's why I want to hang on to them, man. They don't have our freedoms. They just don't in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think we're a contentious bunch compared to the rest of them. We're more opinionated. We're more fired up. We're more fiery.
We think our opinion matters too. I think
a
lot
we're
more.
Maybe a little more arrogant about it. I don't know. Maybe that's true. Some of us for sure.
Yeah.
But it was dang interesting. There's been a couple guys out of state checking my availability to go do a shooting clinic. I do that. If they can get a day or two with a dozen guys each day, I'll do a day-long clinic and go out and teach archery for a day.
You have a lot of people that travel in for coaching too, right?
Now, because like I said, I've gotten some notoriety in this niche. Virtually every week somebody's coming in, flying in for lessons. A great experience with Christoph and Barbara. They came from Switzerland. The guy had bought my online course, and he loved it and watched anything I have to do with YouTube or this podcast I'm sure he'll listen to. But this couple came and they said, okay, I want lessons from Tom. And so we're going to do a vacation. So they flew in, they booked 2 days with me, and then they were just traveling Colorado. And of course, they're nice people. Like, just come to our house and stay. And so they did. And the guy's a master word carver. And
really?
And he waited a couple days because he found out that he liked me. And he gave me this carving of a brown bear with a salmon in its mouth that hand carved. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the cooler gifts I've ever gotten. But we got to know those folks. And of course, we've got invites to Switzerland. He's going to see if we can do a clinic out there. Might pay for the plane fare. So here again, we met a wonderful couple with kids that are just getting, graduating high school of an age where they could come on their own. And here we have these friends from Switzerland now, these wonderful people. And I got to ask all the questions about their country and their government and their healthcare and how they look at things.
That's an incredible place to visit, man.
I wanted to do that.
Yeah,
Chris
you
and I
should definitely go.
They invited, it's like, now you come to our place, you know. We want to be as welcoming to you as you have been to us. So that's on the docket, you know.
That's incredible.
Now. So, yeah, just here again, if I didn't do what I do, I wouldn't have this friendship with these people from the other side of the dang world, 2 different places.
Yeah.
And now I have true friends, you know, that people I call friends far, far away, you know, and have a relationship that we'll make contact from time to time with.
Well, you're such an incredible coach too. And the process and the approach that you take with it, like, you have changed the archery game for me firsthand. Like,
yeah, thank you.
Something incredible. And it was a struggle for me to relearn that process.
Well,
I don't know if you remember what we went through, but thank you.
No, but it's not uncommon. And so, especially people that didn't get instructed correctly from the first, you build these motor programs, you build these habits, or the way your mind works through a shot, and you build in automatic functions you have to sooner or later correct and consciously override. That's a battle. It truly is. And so it's a battle everybody faces.
I know firsthand.
Yeah. And so I just give people the tools to fight this battle with and win. You know, there's many skirmishes along the way, and you have failures and successes in these individual skirmishes as you're shooting, so to speak. I just analogies that maybe non-archers wouldn't understand. But, you know, when you have the inability to hang on to the string because you have what's called target panic, and you have automatic functions. When your brain sees aim, you let go, and you don't let go, and you don't have any control over letting go. And then to try to hang on to the string and actually aim the bow is a storm in your brain. And we have to tell, you know, first of all, that storm will pass if you wait long enough. It's only going to take 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, but we always shoot inside that storm because we don't think that storm will never end. It's such an anxiety-filled moment when you have target panic. So we just got to get them to weather the storm first.
And once you do, this is my own personal testament, is like my confidence level in archery is 100 times what it was.
Because you fought that battle.
Yeah.
Because you weathered enough storms to then do the conscious movement, and then you had success. You won that skirmish. And maybe the next shot, you won that battle again. And then the next shot, you punched out. Like, dang it.
Yeah.
I lost control of my movements in the shot, right? Okay, next one. And so what we're looking for over time is the percentages of those individual battles for each shot get higher and higher. It's a process. And sooner or later, if you're cognitive working on your shot, it's just what you do. And you're to that point, now you have confidence. And confidence itself means consciousness. You don't wonder how your shot's going to go. You know exactly how to make a great shot, and that's what you do.
Yeah, I know when I screw up.
And when you screw up, you go, okay, on this next one, I'm going to press a little longer, so I'm going to move it a little slower. You correct it right the next shot, so that your slumps don't last but a shot or 3. Because you know you self-correct right away, right? Because you have the tools to do that with now. And so I didn't make you a good shooter. You made yourself a good shooter. I just gave you the information to do it with. And that's the way I look at it. Like, I hear guys like, you built that archer. I didn't build any archer. They built it. They did the hard work. I gave them the information. You know, that's my skill set.
It really is, man. I urge anybody that wants to be good at archery, whether it's traditional or like you coach me on the compound side. So
yeah, I do it all.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And, you know, right down to the equipment. Like the other thing I want to bring up are your broadheads.
Yeah.
Are amazing. They're the best tuning broadhead I've ever had.
They're
the
crazy
3-blade cutthroats.
Yeah.
I've killed 3 animals with them now.
They're incredibly durable. I mean, they're machined out of one piece of steel. They're a premium head. They're expensive, but they're not as expensive as the other ones because we don't take the big profit margins other people do. There's design features in those things that they can fly off of high-speed compound bows. Mm-hmm. You know, originally we thought our market would be traditional only, but we found that the design features worked at high-speed setups. And so we have a single bevel 2-blade and we have a 3-blade, and you know, in all different weights and that kind of stuff. So it's a question to the customer. What are you shooting? What are your needs? Do you need penetration? Do you need more damage? We have a wide, 1.5 inch wide now. If you're shooting enough arrow weight and enough poundage of the bow, you can use this wider cut because now you're interested in more damage. You know penetration is an issue. You're a big dude. You shoot a heavyweight bow and heavy arrows. You can go to a bigger, wider broadhead.
Yeah.
If a shorter person, lighter draw weights, we're going to go to that narrow tube blade and guarantee the penetration to make that a humane kill on that animal. So yeah, the boys have done an unbelievable job designing and having these heads produced, and it's been a add to the business and an interesting little side venture to our business, but it's integral to our business now. So
if you're a hunter and you're looking for broadheads, I strongly recommend that you check out the Cutthroats. Like,
yeah, it's Cutthroat Broadhead, and our logo is a Cutthroat Trout. We didn't want to make it grizzly. Our logo is a Cutthroat Trout, and that's kind of what born the name of it. But it kind of went with a broadhead too, I guess.
So, it's super cool, yeah. And the one thing that I want to commend you guys on too, which is super special about your shop, is you guys aren't just pushing a product, right? Like you have multiple products in the Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear online, a vast array of bow builders or bowyers, right?
Bowyers, people who build bows. Or bowyers.
I always screw that up. So there's a multitude of stuff, but really you guys fit the individual. You guys are really intuitive to ask the individual that comes in, or me personally, like, what do you want to do?
Yeah,
and I think that's where you start, right?
Absolutely. What are you interested in? What kind of bow are you interested in? So you're going to get instruction. You're going to, right from the beginning, as part of the process. If you end up buying a bow, you were well served. I don't care. The golden rule, just treat people like you want to be treated is how we want to run our business. Be a good person. It's a really cool way to live. Be righteous. It's a really fun, non-anxious way to live. And you know what? It just happens to be good for business.
Yeah.
So the people we hire, the people we bring into our team, they're all the type of people. They're good communicators that liked to help people and that are knowledgeable, or will give them the knowledge on the job training. They're going to start with a base knowledge for sure. They're going to be an archer. So there's a real type. We hire out of our customer base. Everybody that I hang out with, everybody that are my peers that I go shoot with, or my personal friends, or that are in our shop and work for us, were people that walked in the door one day, and we got to know them in their nature over time. And then there was an opportunity where they needed a job and wanted to do what we had available. That's everybody at the shop is like that. That's everybody in my life. Bobby Marshall's a guy who walked in the door one day and I got to know and made a friendship with.
Yeah.
What a cool way to live, right?
It's so cool, man. Cool. And I really commend you guys for doing that. And shout out to all the people that work down there and have helped me. I've never had a bad experience at Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear. And it's kind of unheard of for some bow shops. And like with everybody, I mean, including, Colt, Danny, Alex, Jerry. I mean, all you guys are just amazing. And I know that there's so many more people that I'm leaving.
Will.
Tracy, I mean,
Kelly.
I know when I go to Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear that I just need to block out an hour, because I'm going to have some conversations when I go in there.
Man.
It's like you going in to see old buddies or something, man.
So what we want to do most, like with our social media, which can be really harmful or can be an asset, we want to give information. So my rules is like interesting or informational, but mostly informational, because that's easy and it's not self-promoting. I can give you some information that will help you. I like to do that. That's fun. That's what we like to do as far as our content goes, and that's where we aim at most of it. So we don't have much in marketing, but
you don't need it though, man. I think you guys are doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's comfortable. Self-promotion is not in our wheelhouse whatsoever. It's very uncomfortable. That's why we can't get Danny to say, dude, you should be our poster boy. Like, Dad, I do what I do for me.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
With my family.
I get that too, yeah. I
said, okay, but let's share a little bit of it, because people need to know what you do.
Danny, I hope you share it on here if you're listening. So get in here. Let's hang out. It's laid back. Tom, this has been awesome. I want to be respectful of your time. We've been out at 2.5 hours
Holy
almost.
Mackerel.
So
time flies around with you.
It goes really fast. But you're welcome back here anytime. Any way that we can help you guys. I got to get back down there for some of the River Deep stuff. Shout out to those guys. They're amazing. Yeah. You turned me on to them, and that's a great experience, and makes you appreciate life a little bit more. I think those little things like that, are super awesome. So, yeah, if you guys ever need any help, I'd be glad to help you with
Thank you.
anything. You've been a friend, and thank you for your time today, man.
My pleasure,
really
buddy.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Real quick before we jump off, RMSGear.
So our website is RMSGear. It stands for Rocky Mountain Special Gear, RMSGear.com. My online courses are at shootsolid.com, Solid Archery Mechanics.
Awesome course.
So if you don't have a coach near you, we've got a 7-hour detailed elite level, this more pointed at recurve stuff. I've got one launching next week on the mental management of shots, so we don't need clickers. We can have an integral shot. It's kind of a high-level mental management.
Yeah, we didn't even
course
get into
up.
You guys have a ton of products to help archers.
Right. Instagram is Tom_Clum, CLUM_Sr. at Instagram. RMSGear on Instagram for that, and Facebook. So we do have social media presence if you want to kind of check out some of the informational stuff we put out. And we have a Solid Archery Mechanics YouTube channel that we're going to be loading a lot more informational stuff out that has some good stuff on it already. But
you guys have some 3D shoots and stuff too?
we sponsor the 3D shoot every Thursday. It'll end it's every July. And June and July, so we only got 1 or 2 left.
Okay.
And so we sponsor a club shoot. Anybody can come to it. We shoot a 3D score.
Super cool. There's a little bit of food at the end.
Yeah, we barbecue dogs and burgers at the end, so you can get a $5 meal. And
where else can you get a $5 meal?
Yeah. We move the steaks, so we don't do that to make money. We just pay for the food. And we move the stakes every week, and we have challenging shots, and you keep score. And like in the big divisions, like the compound and recurve, the first place will get 100 for that month. Best 3 out of 4 scores. First place gets $100. Second place gets 75. The middle score gets 100. The second to the middle gets 75, and the second to the last total score gets $50. So everybody's got a chance. We make it fun. It's a club shoot. It's meant to meet people, meet new hunting partners,
it's a great
shooting
group
partners.
of people. I've been to a couple of them.
People in archery are awesome. We'll do that every summer.
Yeah, you guys do some amazing stuff. Definitely go and check them out. Support these guys if you're in Colorado. Tom, thank you, man. Thank you for being awesome and just being a good friend, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you for that.
Thanks everybody for listening. Jeremy.
Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. Also, if you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.